9th, 2015, Owen Sound City Council meeting. We're starting a little bit late, frankly, because the clock in the other room was a little bit late that I was following. So we've been in camera for about 10 or 15 minutes on something minor, and declaring now to move into the regular meeting. There are any additional items tonight? Councillor O'Leary?
Thank you, Worship. I have an announcement for Festive First Friday and a little burp on our one-year anniversary as a city council.
There might be a few people that want to talk to that. Any others? Deputy Mayor Wright?
Thank you, Your Worship. I have one item that I want to talk a little bit about that I did on your behalf, and I also have a very short county report.
Okay, two things. Others? Oh, I should have started with staff once again. Wayne? Mr. Richard?
Your Worship, I have a staff introduction I'd like to make.
Okay, we'll maybe do that in about 2 seconds instead of waiting until other business. Ms. Stobo?
There's one amendment, Your Worship, to the recommendation in item 11B. The recommendation should read, for receipt of items 11B1 to 11B7 instead of 6. Just a typo numerical.
Oh, I see. At the motion part that will be moved there in the.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gregg, I assume you want to do a Movember review for a follow-up. I've got Councillor Gregg down there as the third one. Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none. Okay. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Anyone else? Seeing none, I actually have 11A8 on the agenda. Is a matter that I dealt with in my legal profession a couple of years ago, so I'll pass the chair at that point to Deputy Mayor Wright when it comes up. Down to number 5, confirmation of minutes. Councillor Lemon.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Todd, that the minutes of the council pre-budget meeting number 1 held November 5th, 2015 as printed be adopted.
So is that November 4th, did you say?
No, November 5th.
I just want to clarify, our agenda here says, the one I've got says November 4th. The motion read says November 5th.
Sorry, Your Worship, we can check and verify just to make sure that's the right one.
Should probably do it before we move it, though.
I believe it was the 4th because it was on a Wednesday, as best I recall, that pre-budget meeting, so that would have been the 4th. It's a typo.
Your Worship, was November 4th.
Okay, so Councillor Lemon, you're fine with that amendment to November
Yes.
4th? Okay. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. 5B.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Dodd, that minutes of council pre-budget meeting number 2 on November 9th, 2015 as printed be adopted.
Thank you. All in favor? Oh, hold on. Yep.
There's one motion on there, and I can't, my computer just crashed, but it talks about the, right, on the film plastic, whether we bring that forward or not, and it says the motion was defeated. I thought the motion passed.
Not film plastic.
For film plastic was defeated?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Sorry, my mistake.
Okay, thank you. So that's, we're referring to the minutes from November 9th, 2015, pre-budget meeting. Otherwise, all in favor? There we go, that's carried. Thank you. Councillor Lemon, 5C.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Dodd, the minutes of the regular council meeting held on November 16th, 2015 as printed be adopted.
Okay, questions? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Councillor Lemon, number 6.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Dodd, that City Council now go into Committee of the Whole to consider public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which previous notice was previously given, and other business.
And all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Before we go to number 7, I'm going to perhaps jump in. Mr. Ritchie, you wanted to?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm pleased at this time to introduce Peter Alan Parker, our Communication and Information Advisor who started today for the city. Peter, you just want to stand and say hello?
Welcome.
Peter comes to us very highly recommended. His latest job is at the Office of the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, and Peter started today, and he's already starting to pay huge dividends for us, Your Worship.
Good, thank you. So continuing on with the program, welcome, Peter. You'll see lots of us, I think, probably more of us than you like over the next few years. Next 3 for sure, anyway. Number 7, public meeting. There's no public meetings. Number 8, this is one of these fun nights when we give out the checks for the facade grant presentation. So I'm going to head down to the other microphone. Pam's got the checks. So I bring with me Councillor Gregg, who is the chair of the Heritage and Planning Committee. The first recipients that I want to recognize are Jack Goad and Laura Ann Wood. Are you present? Come on up. Half? I assume you're Jack and not Laura.
I'm Jack, that's right.
Welcome. Jack Goad and Laura Ann Wood are the owners of 606 2nd Avenue West. Mr. Goad is in attendance this evening, obviously, to receive the facade grant for his home, which is designated under the Ontario Heritage Act and is listed on the Register of Properties of Cultural Value. This house was constructed in 1870 and exemplifies a typical Ontario Gothic farmhouse back in the early years in this area. The owners are receiving a facade grant to assist with repointing and repairing the brickwork on both the south and east sides of the building. Am I going too fast? There we go. I can go ahead, Pam? Okay. This work is necessary to help preserve the structural integrity of these very important heritage buildings in our community. Thank you for your commitment to preserving our heritage. Councillor Greg's got a check there for you.
Thank you. Just going to say I'll be back. We have more to do.
Okay.
Yeah, no, bad.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations. Our next one is Georgia Palmer. Is Georgia here? Hi, come on up. Welcome. Georgia Palmer is the owner of this commercial property located at 824 3rd Avenue East in the city's downtown core. And there it's on the screen. Ms. Palmer is in attendance this evening to receive a facade grant to assist with the removal of the old brick and installation of new stone veneer, which has a heritage architectural style. This project is an excellent example of ongoing facade improvements being made to the buildings in the city's downtown. Congratulations, this is an outstanding improvement to the facade. Very nice.
I just want to express my appreciation to council. We've had a lot of repairs to the building this year, and the facade grant really helps. Thank you.
Now, the next 2 recipients are properties owned by Barry's Construction Limited. The work in both these properties, inside and out, has been completed by Barry's Construction. Though they are not the recipients of the grant, It is worth extending a thank you to Barry's Construction for their ongoing commitment to renovations and upgrading buildings in the city's downtown, and there has been many. So starting off first with Casero Kitchen Table, Beth Milne and Emily Leonard. Just Beth, welcome.
Thank you.
Beth Milne and Emily Leonard have recently opened a new restaurant, Casero Kitchen Table, serving homemade Mexican food. The property is the former location of Vern's Donuts and is located on 3rd Avenue East across from the Professional Center. Beth, which? No, you're Beth. Beth, but not Emily, are in attendance this evening to receive a facade grant for work carried out that has transformed the facade of this building. The work included removal of steel mansard roof on the upper facade to uncover the original brick, stuccoed the lower half of the front facade to mimic a typical Mexican architectural design, installation of the overhead garage door, similar to the door that existed in photographs of this building in the early 1800s. New signage in 3 locations, new gooseneck lighting. Not only have you done a great job in creating a unique facade look for your business, but you have attempted to restore much of the original facade and appearance, and frankly have brought life to the alleyway, and it's pretty neat with the businesses on both ends of that, which I think I'm coming to. Congratulations.
Thank you. I also would just like to express the thanks to council for working with us on this so closely in the spring, and it's been a great project, and again, thanks to Barry's Construction, who did all the work, and we're very accepting of all of our ideas, so thanks again.
Thanks. And going to the other end of that alley, Milkmaid. There we go. Jennifer Smith is here. Welcome.
Thank you.
So Jennifer Smith is also here this evening representing a new business in the city downtown. The Milkmaid, which is a retail store selling cheese and gourmet food, as well as a cafe-style restaurant and small outdoor patio. She is also the owner of a registered massage therapy business located in the rear of the business and accessed from the alley on the side of the building. The facade grant has been granted to assist with the following work: new signage at the front and side of the building, removing the plywood and installing new windows on the side of the building, new gooseneck lighting. The city's downtown and harborfront master plan defines this section of 2nd Avenue as eclectic heritage and encourages a vibrant upscale shopping area and investment in the restoration and upgrading of the facades. The work done on this business certainly accomplishes this and adds to the vibrancy of our downtown. Congratulations on the great job with this facade, and the best for your future success.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks very much. Yes, I would also like to say thank you. Programs like this make it easier for people such as myself to start up new businesses downtown. I live and work downtown, and I'm really excited that it's thriving. I'd like to say thanks to Barry's Construction and to Grant Nicholson for doing the sign for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, oops, bad place for a drawer. Congratulations to all the recipients. That's part of what keeps Owen Sound beautiful is our heritage and our beautiful buildings, and it's great when owners fix up their facades and take advantage of the program offered by the city and help maintain our downtown and buildings around it. So next, I'm down to 8E, deputations, and the next deputy is Jane Phillips from the Business Enterprise Center. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good to go? Okay. Thank you, Mayor Boddy, Council, and staff, and media, and guests. So today is a great opportunity, and I thank you for inviting me to give you a little update on what's happening with the Business Enterprise Center. I'm just going to go back here. It looks like we're on a timer, so I'll just... So the Business Enterprise Center, as most of you know, started in the year 2000, so it is our 15th anniversary, and it's been a wonderful partnership between the City of Owen Sound and the Ministry of Economic Development, Infrastructure and Employment, I have to think, because it has changed a number of times. But at the moment, that's the ministry that we're with, and that partnership has worked extremely well. And I do thank you also on behalf of all the businesses that you've assisted in starting through this program and this association. So it's great to be part of economic development and the city. So you'll also see on here our one logo, that's the Ontario Network of Entrepreneurs, and that is a recent organization between many levels of business support from a provincial standpoint. So it does give us access to more resources and information. The main thing I wanted to talk about, first of all, as some people are interested in, are those partnerships and the basic funding agreement. So we have a specific mandate, and that has not changed. Our specific mandate is to help people start and grow businesses. So that's new startups from ideas right through to full business planning. Sorry, this seems to be on a loop. So the basic funding agreement is still in place and has increased over the years. And then we have an opportunity to change from a partnership agreement to a transfer agreement. I wanted to bring that up because that is a change in the way the ministry is now doing some of the programs. And there now is a youth employment and self-employment focus that the province has. And we have a couple of programs under that, which I'll share with you again and update you on. So the main mandate is that starting businesses and helping existing businesses grow, and of course retaining businesses, which we know is part of all the strategy at every level of government now to continue to support businesses that exist to create employment. So certainly in Grey Bruce and in the City of Owen Sound, that is a major responsibility. So for a brief overview of the statistics, and we do keep quite strident statistics on what we do. I do monthly reports, and that is given to Steve, a manager of economic development, if anyone ever wants to see those reports. But this is a summary. So from April 2014, to March 2015, the client consultations, which are defined as 1 hour in length, that we work one-on-one confidential consultations with clients, are 255. We've done 76 workshops, which included 831 participants, and to date this year, you'll see those statistics on the right-hand side. Our web and social media engagements are also tracked, so we have 11,273 in 2014, and to date 7,100. So those are engagements of people looking at the city website, drilling down into the enterprise website to look at specific programs that we have and what we're offering. So when I was last here, I introduced our summer company participants from this year, and I wanted to give you just a brief report on them. We had a wonderful summer with those students. Here they are where the program was being launched, and I'll briefly just go through Kat, who was doing Pasta Made Perfect. Kat was a culinary student at Georgian College. I wanted to mention Kat because she was able to use the professional commercial kitchen at Georgian College to do her business, which is now a public health requirement. So she did that, and she was able to use it also to get her co-op credit. So that was a nice loop for that program. Next was Cone's Ice Cream. That was Kieran in Wyerton, and he's an economics Waterloo student, and he now believes that he's got the bug and he's going to be self-employed. Christopher's Creations, this is Chris. He was also a Georgian College business student who did wooden bowls, beautiful products that he's still selling and continuing his business. And he also received his co-op credit for doing that. Zach Coulter did top corner training, shooting and skills, and Zach's going to continue to use the investment that he made in the artificial surface to train, and I know he had a fun summer doing something that he loves. Morning Flower Designs was Adela Besmer-Cleverly, and she's continuing to do her artwork and her stationery. She's a university student as well. And then Naked Basics, Charlie was our champion this year. Charlie's continuing her business, and if you've heard about Charlie, she also won the People's Choice Award for the Chamber of Commerce, which was really cool because we nominated her for New Entrepreneur and Young Entrepreneur, and she lost. She didn't lose, though, should I say that? She wasn't successful in achieving that, but packing her things up at the end of the night, then she won the People's Choice Award, which was really cool because that was everyone voting on her who had been nominated, and that's pretty nice for a summer student to win versus all those other businesses. So she's a Georgia College nursing student. She's continuing her business. She's just rented space in the basement of Jan's Candles to do her production now because she has so many sales. So a real success story for Charlie. Starter Company is our 2015 is our program for 18 to 29-year-olds who are not in school. So we've had 11 recipients so far of that grant, and we've trained over 33 of them and mentored them. So here's a sample of a couple of the folks and a few of the mentors that we have. So we've developed a full mentorship program as well. That's just been extended, so we're pretty excited about that. We've received additional funding and additional spaces to March 2017. It was a pilot project to start with, and so the main component of this is the training and mentoring, and then the writing a full business plan and applying for up to $5,000 grants. So we've had 11 of those so far, and we have 3 more working on their projects right now. We encourage you, if you ever have an opportunity, to, of course, to share all this information, because we do have spaces and we do have time to work with these folks. So very quickly, Amwood Skateboard, that's Alistair in Meaford, who's been an existing business, but really needed to step up in his website and to sell internationally. Ayla Photo Creations, Amy bought the green screen and did some marketing with her funding. Mitch Schultz is a licensed carpenter. We have a picture of him there with his equipment that he purchased, and again, his marketing. Sundu Creations, a jewelry and screen printing of a local art, does beautiful work. And Faro Orthotics, and Kelly has started in other locations and just bought a house on 2nd Avenue West and is starting his location in Owen Sound in that facility. So pretty excited about that one. And Beyond Limits, Justine is a trainer. And then our Young Entrepreneur of the Year award from the Chamber was Harley, so Candace and Harley of Ironwood Coffee, our starter company participants. So they won the Chamber award as well, and that's the roaster that they bought to up their production of their coffee. Just as a summary of the Ontario Self-Employment Program, this is the program that was canceled across the province. We're still running that program until March 2016, but of course we have no new intake, so people are coming off that program. Just to go over the statistics, the participants in those last 10 years, 780 in orientation sessions and training that we did, 439 completed workshop training and business plans, and 412 businesses were started, and 389 are still, I didn't put that statistic on, just got that today, are still in business and running their businesses throughout Grey and Bruce because of that program. So unfortunately, it's not continuing. And our OSEB participant won the Small Business Home Office Business of the Year Award at the Chamber of Commerce as well. Connie Illman, she has a marine upholstery and sewing business. So those are all clients that have been laid off or without employment and decide to choose self-employment. So they're starting and creating businesses. So a brief overview of the workshops and events that we've done over the little while. I won't go through all those, but it gives you an idea of the type of workshops and events that we do offer. And those are from a lot of surveys and information gathering that we put together. I thought I'd share with you our partners just over the last year, who we've worked with, who we associate with, who we get sponsorships from, and who we share the workload with as well. From an information and communication point of view, I wanted to share that we do have our Facebook page. It's regularly updated, and postings there that we share with our associates as well with our upcoming workshops. And our website, of course, on the city website, and this is the Facebook page. So that's two of the main things that we do. We also do a newsletter every 2 weeks, so if anyone would like to be on our newsletter list, it's a great way probably for you to keep up to date if you want to know anything at all. And if you'd like us to share anything on your behalf, of course, in the business community, that's where we do that. Final thing I didn't put in this, what I was thinking on the way here, was just to let you know we do a lot of outreach, so I speak to lots of groups regularly in the high schools, talking to classes, Georgian College, the Rotary groups and Kiwanis, the other councils and committees, again, just to spread the word of all the things that are going on and the services that are available. Thank you very much for your time. And if there are any questions?
Questions, comments? Councillor McManaman.
Thank you. Ms. Phillips, you said at the beginning, one of the changes is from partnerships to transfer agreements. What do you mean by that?
Well, when we first started in 2000, it was a full integrated partnership with the ministry. I think what's happening, honestly, is that they're just a little more hands-off than they used to be. We had regional advisors that came and saw us, and that hasn't happened for a few years now. And what the agreements are is we do a proposal and a full business plan to the ministry now. Actually, I did a 3-year one last year. And they approve that and integrate that into an agreement and say, okay, you implement that the way you want to and need to in your community. So it's, I suppose it's just a shift in the responsibility that they may now not have as much. I'm not sure that it's interest, but control over. So a little more independent, I would say. So, and it's a good thing.
And could you remind me what your overall budget is?
At the present time, well, the OSEB agreement was $250,000, so we don't have that any longer. So I would say that weekly it changes a little bit. So I should have that number right off the top of my head. But today we did get offered, the ministry called and asked us to do the summer company program for Grey and Bruce counties. We used to just do it for Grey. So I'm not sure what that'll be some additional money as well. So I think at this point we're at about 160,000.
That's for a city investment of 15,000.
For 15, yeah.
So anyway, great job and a very good return on our investment.
Thank you very much. It's because of all the support we get too.
Others? Councillor Lemon?
I actually think that 15,000 budget was what was originally approved the first year, is it not? So it hasn't gone up.
I think we were 10,000.
Oh, okay, but it's been 15 for eons. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We've been very fortunate in gathering other programs that we haven't had to come back to the city, quite honestly. So,
congratulations to you and your staff. It's fun going to the Chamber of Commerce Business Awards and watching you beam. You know, the proud mother hen is just about everybody that goes across the stage has gone through your front doors along the way and that you've helped, and it's a great success numbers there that you've got. So keep it up. It's great. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I do have to say it is a lot of the mentors that we have and facilitators we've been able to work with and the business community wanting to move ahead. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our list is Michelle Draper, co-op student for the City of Owen Sound, with regard to tree inventory presentation.
I'm not Michelle.
Looks like John lost the bet.
Just a brief introduction. We've been very blessed this year to have Michelle Draper with us to do the tree inventory. And you may remember that last year we hired a company, Natural Resources Solutions at Waterloo. They completed a portion of the inventory and a decision was made. Staff recommended that we would go with a contract person. So we were able to hire Michelle, and she's a landscape technician diploma graduate from Humber College. She's in the Bachelor of Applied Science degree in horticulture, majoring in landscape management at Old College in Alberta. She's from Lions Head, and we hired an assistant for her to hold the other end of the tape when we mentioned the trees, Jesse Prisseau, and he was a environmental technician student co-op from Georgian College, and the two of them worked very well and have basically completed the tree inventory for the streets and for the trees in the maintained areas of our major parks. And this was part of Michelle's directed field study for 8 months. Unfortunately, she'll be leaving us at the end of December and going on to either more education or to another employment. So I'll turn it over to Michelle at this point.
Thanks, John. Welcome.
So this should be somewhat review for most of you. Why should we do a tree inventory? It helps us to qualify and quantify our urban forest. It's an important management tool for the city as it helps us to build action plans and budgets, and it also helps us to carry out the first steps of the Emerald Ash Borer Management Plan. So as John had mentioned, a company called Natural Resource Solutions had started the inventory process in 2014, but they did not get it completed, so this year we have completed it in-house. So in 2014, 3,376 trees were inventoried between July and September. And this year in 2015, 3,143 trees were inventoried between May and July, giving us an overall 6,519 trees that were inventoried on the road allowances. The company last year had estimated about 4,500 trees left to do this year, and there was a bit of a discrepancy due to there being more trees in the southern portion of the city, which they had done, and there was fewer in the north area that we did this year. So this map just shows some of the areas that had been inventoried last year versus the inventories that we had focused on for this year. Note in the 2015 map, it shows the combined data, so that shows all the trees that have been inventoried. So overall, most of the trees were rated as either good or fair. A small percentage were rated as very poor or dead, and most trees had a low structural failure rating, most trees had a low structural failure rating, and a very low percentage had a high structural failure rating. So ultimately, most of the trees were in good condition, in a low risk rating, which is very, very good news for us. So the structural failure rating was based upon the amount of the tree that would fall onto a publicly used space if it were to fail. And this graph just goes through and breaks down the structural failure rating in conjunction with the overall condition of the tree, which we would rate from either excellent to dead, depending on the amount of dieback or the amount of structural abnormalities that we would find on the tree. So some of the dominant species that we found were Crimson King Norway maple, white ash, Norway maple, sugar maple, and a green ash. And just to point out that the white ash and green ash are two ash species that are susceptible to the emerald ash borer. It's not switching.
These graphics.
It's still not going on there.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just not happening on there. So this chart breaks down the ash trees that we have inventoried. And so the 4 species that we came across were black ash, white ash, green ash, and a European ash. So there is 1,092 ash trees that we inventoried, which makes up 16.75% of the urban forest. These are some of the heritage trees that we have throughout Owen Sound, so some of the very large trees. These are the types of trees that we would focus on for treatment as they are of cultural significance to the city. We would rate trees as either a monitor, remove, or treat action. So most of the trees were given a monitor status, so about 6,000 trees. 245 of those trees were rated for a removal. And this just shows all the ash trees distributed through the city and the amount that we have chosen for treatment, which is about 86. And that makes up 13% of the ash trees. And 13% may seem a little bit low, but there are a lot of ash out in the rural areas that we would not focus on treating, as they're not in the downtown core area, and they're not of a very big size or of good health. So for the ash trees selected for treatment from 2014 and 2015, it will cost about $25,000 plus tax to treat. And we based our selection for treatment based on size, health, and risk. So for example, a small tree is usually not worth treating, as they don't provide the same amount of benefits as a larger tree does. And a tree that's already in poor condition with lots of dieback will not be worth treating, as it may die soon after treatment from other causes. And a tree that's in a high-risk area, such as near a school or a park, is more suitable for treatment than a tree in a rural area, like I had pointed out before. And the number of ash trees to be treated can be adjusted based on their health and size to fit the budget for the year. This year, or for 2016, we have $15,000 dedicated to the Emerald Ash Borer Management Plan. This is a picture of a typical woodlot with dying ash that you would see in Ontario. We're lucky that we have not seen it to this degree in Owen Sound, but it's something that could definitely be happening in the future. This is a map that shows what 16.75% of loss in our urban forest could be. So note that there's 16.75% of the street trees are ash, and that is something that we need to be concerned about. So that's what it would look like, and I'll just flip back and forth. What it would look like if we lost all of the street trees, and that once again does not take into account any ash that is on private property or any ash that are like through the escarpment areas. So this just shows a picture from Centennial Tower showing the canopy coverage in Owen Sound, and just thinking back to the other picture of the ash woodlot, that we definitely do not want this to look like that. Some of the other projects that we have been working on have been a memorial tree inventory. So we had gone through and collected data on all the memorial trees throughout the city, so that any of the families are able to easily find this data, and it would be added to the Cosmos system in the future, which most of you are familiar with. We are working on a tree maintenance work order system that is currently in progress. So we're organizing a work order system to help keep the inventory up to date now that we have it completed. So we're able to revise and add hazardous trees to the maintenance for the park staff to work on. As well as doing the street trees, we have done a parks tree inventory, which is still in progress. So the same information as the street trees is compiled, and it allows the city to maintain healthy and beautiful parks. And we also did a parking lot tree inventory, so any of the trees that are within the city-owned parking lots have been added to the inventory as well. So this is what the tree inventory will look like on Cosmos. So if you go to cosmos.owensound.ca, and this is now live for public use, you're able to see the tree inventory here, and you can search an address. And you're able to see what trees are in the area if it's of interest to you. So you could see the species, the diameter, the time and date. So you can just look at all of that. So you can pan down the streets. You can also You can also search by species. So if you want to look at where all of the ash are, that gives you an idea of where all of the ash are in the city. So this is something that is publicly available if people want to have a look at what trees are on their front lawn, what trees are on their property. And this is where the memorial tree inventory will also be uploaded in the future. So if people want to go and see the memorial tree for their family, they're able to easily find it on the Cosmos system. So in summary, 6,519 trees were inventoried. Of that, 1,092 were ash, comprising of 16.75% of the urban forest. Note that it's only the street. And that would cost us $25,460 plus tax to treat the recommended ash trees, which would be 86. And the 2016 budget for Emerald Ash Borer Management is $15,000. The memorial tree inventory and parking lot tree inventory are completed, and we are working on a parks tree inventory and a work order system currently. Are there any questions?
Questions? Councillor Kepke?
Thank you very much. Great job on all of this in inventorying the trees. When you say the inventory is complete, does that mean every resident that has a tree on city property has been counted or accounted for?
Yes.
Okay, and this goes obviously only to the city boundaries, so it doesn't include the
It does not
night escarpment?
include the escarpment or anything that would be like in ravines behind somebody's property.
Okay. What's the next step for the dead or very poor trees? The removal?
For ash or just trees in general?
Any trees?
We're currently working on a work order system with the IT department. So all of the very poor trees that need to be removed or trees that need to be maintained or pruned, they're being added to a work order system so that we're able to prioritize them based on their removal or based on the need to remove them. And then that will then be transferred to the Parks Department, who will go and carry out the work.
And the trees that are removed, then, are they replaced?
They can be, if it's on a front lawn and the homeowner would like it replaced, we can do that, yeah.
Okay, and with respect to the treatment of emerald ash borer, I am privileged to have watched some of that exercise with the Grace Harbor Conservation Authority and know that they're going through a program right now. Has there been any discussion with the Conservation Authority on treatment and sort of expanding or using their services to do own sound trees or
I believe that we would be using them to do the treatment. Donna Lacey is a forestry technician with them, and that's where I got the pricing from. So I believe that we would be going with them.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor O'Leary.
Thanks, Michelle. That's a good presentation. I'm not sure if I should be asking you this question. I'm just wondering about our replacement trees. When we plant trees, who decides what kind of tree we're planting? And now that we have this inventory, can we use this inventory to decide what trees we should be planting in the future? I know we have a policy in place for new homes being built. The homeowner can build or can plant 2 trees, but we don't have any control over what kind of tree.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, what do we do in the future now in terms of replacing trees?
We do have an approved tree planting list. So homeowners are able to choose a tree off of that approved list. Obviously, we are encouraging people to not plant ash trees at this point, but we could definitely use the inventory as a tool to look at any trees that maybe haven't done well in that area, as there would be a history report on that specific address or that specific residence, and we could see that if a maple hasn't done well there in the past, we maybe would not put another maple there.
So do we keep track of the new trees that are?
Yes.
We do?
Yeah, so the new ones would be added as they're planted, and that's the idea with doing this work order system, that we're working with IT so that now that the inventory is completed, we have a work order system in place so that we know it is going to be up to date from here on out.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
Councillor McManaman, you had your hand up?
I didn't, but I would comment, Michelle's done a great job here. The one point to keep in mind in the budget that's coming up, it's $15 I noticed it was 20,000, now it's 15. So I'm assuming that we'll find out why that is at the budget on Wednesday. But we're inoculating roughly 8% of the ash trees, give or take. Let's use 10% just to be crazy. That means 90% we're going to have to take down at some point. And that's going to cost a lot more than $300 a tree. So I guess what I'd say, this is a great first step to look at these 86 trees, and to keep in mind, we're only talking street trees. We're not talking about anywhere in the parks. So that's another whole layer to this that is sort of a next phase. But this emerald ash borer is going to cost a lot of money over a lot of years, because that's $15,000 for inoculation every year. That's not going away. It's only going to go up. Plus removal of trees, plus replanting, because we do have a replanting program, but when you're talking this number of trees being removed, that's probably not going to be adequate. You're probably going to need to make that a little more robust too. So I'm just full of good news, but that's anyway, the whole point here. First step, let's get the information, and that's what Michelle and Jesse have done, and it's good report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Wright?
Thank you very much. And I have all kinds of questions, but I'll have to get a hold of John, I think, because to get some of them answered. But I was surprised we only have 146 red maples in the city, and red maples are really what give us the gorgeous color in the fall. And then you mentioned something when you were talking about a maple not withstanding the weather so well. Are you talking about a red maple?
Maple's not withstanding the weather, so.
Yes. You said something about the maple not doing well or something.
I don't believe so.
Okay, so maples will thrive, and as I know, we planted a maple at the Mill Dam, and it's a beautiful tree, and it's red, and I'd like to see more red maples planted in the city. I did choose the one for my front lawn, and it's an ornamental pear, and it's absolutely beautiful in the spring because it's white blossoms. I paid for that, by the way. And I think homeowners are certainly encouraged to put trees on their lawns. The city will plant them, but you have to pay for it. Yeah, anyway, it's great information.
Thank you very much.
One more question from you. We were up at the cemetery when you were up there measuring trees.
Yes.
That huge tree that was big, you thought it might be endangered. Is it on the endangered list, do you know?
Was it the sugar maple? Do you know?
It was close to the office.
Yeah, a big sugar maple. It looks like it's doing very well.
It's doing very well?
It's doing very well considering its size, yes.
Do you have any idea how old that tree is?
I think John was saying upwards of, what did you say, 80 to 100?
Between 85 and 100 years
85 to 100, yeah.
I mean, the trees up there are beautiful. It would be a shame to lose them. I'm quite sure they'd have some interesting stories to tell if they could
For
talk.
sure,
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Lemon?
I noticed on your list you were talking about white elm, I believe. And is that American elm? And that's the elm coming back into this area?
Some of them have never left. They've been hit by the Dutch elm disease.
Yeah.
Some of them are reseed.
And
We haven't planted elm in years. So any that are here are basically native, or they seeded from another area.
because this is a cycle that has happened before with,
Last year was particularly bad for Dutch elm disease. There were a lot of trees that had survived in Grey County that were lost. So
yeah, it's an ongoing battle. One of the things that I find interesting, we've done a partial inventory of the city because like the ravines contain thousands of trees and those areas, and we can't do it all, and I understand that. But one of the things is the number of white cedar that were recorded in that. You must not have done a lot of park area, because like Harrison Park has a huge number of white cedars in it.
as Michelle said, we've only inventoried the maintained areas like Harrison Park, and also we've done like along the
Mile Drive.
eastern.
Okay, that explains the number then. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Oh, Councillor Kepke?
Just a quick comment. I also want to extend appreciation to the other staff that worked with you on this program. You mentioned IT staff and obviously park staff, and you had an assistant as well. So thank you to them as well.
And down to the far ends, Councillor Gregg?
Thank you very much as well for the report, Michelle, and the work. But what I see here is a very large liability in front of the city. And I think what we still need to be able to receive is what is, or what potentially is the offsetting asset to go with this liability, because these trees do have some value, and we haven't seen anything in terms of offsetting costs for the sale of the wood. Is there potential for some of the logging? Like the ash borer will go through. Not everybody in this city has money in their pockets to be able to treat the trees in their own property. But use the ravines that line the east and west side of this hill. Those are private property. They have tremendous slope implications when those trees go. We need more information here, and we need a plan to see if there's an ability that we can self-finance this, or is there some potential for some financing by selling and logging what we currently have to offset. I mean, other cities further to our south have went through this. So if we look at Chicago and Naperville and suburbs, and Oakville right now is cutting 25% of they've just begun to cut 25% of their municipal ash tree supply, But these other cities, if there's one thing they do teach us too, it's that the treatment is delaying the cost over a longer period of time. I mean, so I think we should be able to get some more information here as to, and this is awesome. This is lots of information. This should help us in being able to receive any revenues and get more implications from this.
Good, thank you. I'm going to go to Ms. Coulter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Each year we do sell firewood in Harrison Park that is cut by our park staff, and that creates a revenue of about $10,000. We don't have managed forests. Anytime there is a log, we do make an effort to sell a larger piece. I was after park staff to get a large log moved last year, and they were saying to me, just be patient, we're selling it. There's a site where they sell these trees and try to gain as much revenue. We will be looking at those opportunities. The councillor's right, this is the first step towards managing it. It's not unlike the road or the other linear infrastructure, it's just different. So the first thing we have to do is understand what we have and then create a plan going forward. Over time, treatment does delay it, and that's why we need a plan to know what we have so that we can pick and get the biggest bang for our buck in terms of keeping the urban forest. That's really important, cutting other trees and replacing them with an appropriate species.
Thank you.
Your Worship, if I just could, before Michelle leaves tonight, I would like to thank both Michelle and Jesse who worked with her, but Michelle really brought to this position tremendous professionalism this summer. They were great to have around City Hall, and they came to work every day, and I think you see the results of the work they did, so thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf of council, thank you for your time here and leading on this, and Mr. Howard and all the staff that have put it into the GIS. It's probably couldn't have done it 5 years ago without the GIS system and being able to track them, and luckily you're here to find them and measure them. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Next matter on our list is number 9, public question period. Anyone wish to ask a question? Seeing no one. Number 10, correspondence received for which direction of council is required. 10A is the letter from Barbara Finley, Acting Ombudsman of Ontario, the final investigation report respecting alleged violations, Municipal Act 2001 on April 27th, May 25th, June 15th, 2015. Ms. Stobo, do you want to give us any? Did I tell you in advance? Or am I stiffing you? Somebody got microphones turned on still? No? Okay.
Your Worship, this report generally, in summary, exonerates the council from both heads of this complaint. First of all, the portion of the complaint dealing with the prayer blessing, which was, in summary, a report that was taken to closed session to provide information respecting legal advice the city received with respect to Supreme Court of Canada decision involving a Quebec municipality and the finding by the Supreme Court of Canada that the prayer blessing was contrary to the charter. The other aspect of this complaint related to council gatherings after council meetings on May 25th and June 15th. And the Ombudsman reviewed those circumstances in detail, interviewing various parties, and found that there was no contravention of the closed meeting provisions in the Municipal Act. Primarily, those were social gatherings. All in all, the report was favorable to the city. There was a small error in terms of citing the correct meeting room on the agenda for the April 27th meeting. That was an inadvertent typographical error, and that also has been corrected by recent amendments that have been made to the city's procedure bylaw, keeping in mind that renovations will be made to City Hall in the not too distant future, and therefore leaving that room number open to be established prior to the agenda going out, and for the room to be correctly set out on the published agenda.
Good, thank you. Councillor O'Leary?
Thank you, Your Worship. First, I want to thank the city clerk and staff for the extra work they did during the Ombudsman investigation and for the ongoing reliable guidance they provide us. I sincerely hope it didn't cause too much stress. And with that, I'll move receipt of the report.
One at a time. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next on the list is 10B. It's the other early resolution officer for the Ontario Ombudsman, Ms. Stovall.
Something wrong with this mic. Your Worship, this matter involved a complaint about an amended resolution which was moved prior to going into closed session on September 14th. In fact, the amended resolution, to be clear, was the actual correct resolution that should have been used, and it was used because the matter had moved to a different stage at that point. The previous, or the original resolution, was identical to the resolution used at a much earlier meeting the prior year, but this matter had gone into litigation and a matter before an administrative tribunal, so it was correct on the city's part to amend the resolution. The Ombudsman's office agreed with that and closed the file, determined that no investigation was necessary.
Good, thank you. Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move receipt of that resolution as well.
All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Down to 10C. Ms. Stobo, I think that you're in the hot seat tonight. Municipality of Brockton with regard to support of Board of Health, Grey Bruce Health Unit, and opposed new funding model. If I'm stiffing you here and you're not prepared to present it, that's fine too. Just tell me, because I didn't warn you.
I'm not particularly versed on what this resolution is about, Your Worship. I'm wondering if Deputy Mayor Wright would have greater familiarity with that. If
Good, thank you. Deputy Mayor Wright, thank you.
Thank you very much. The new funding model that is out for the Board of Health is there's no increase in what the amount is going to be given to the Board of Health this coming year to operate their budget. costs have gone up, which means that the health, looking after the health, the costs will go down. I believe that especially with immigrants moving into the Meaford base, we're going to have a lot more health care to look after, and I believe that there should have been the regular percentage increase sent to the Board of Health, and I would ask that we support this motion from Brockton.
Further discussion? Councillor Gregg?
Well, I have a couple problems with supporting the resolution. The first of which, we had this on our agenda October 13th. And council just received it under the consent agenda. We all had notice October 2nd. So this coming back now to us after Brockton deciding to endorse or support the resolution, I do understand the need for adequate funding for the health unit, but it's been portrayed a little bit in the light that this is a rural municipality and we're losing out, and that continues and always is the case with the big city. But Hamilton's Board of Health is also losing $470,000 out of the new funding model, so it's not just rural municipalities. I think I'm kind of on side with the provincial government on this. I think what they're starting to realize is that since 2003 to 2015, their debt has went from $132 billion to $300 billion. And every second, it's increasing $365 a second. I think they're starting to realize they've got a problem. And recently this summer, the health unit produced the breastfeeding toolkit, and I thought, as a business individual and as a counselor, we had a lovely couple ladies sat in a committee meeting this spring. There was no problem, nor should there be. No questions raised, and breastfeeding was invited. We've got over 1,000 brick and mortar businesses within Owen Sound, about 2,500 in Grey and Bruce, and one business has an issue that may or may not have been adequately portrayed in the newspaper, but that's irrelevant. And then the health unit has the resources to produce a breastfeeding toolkit. I wonder where the essential spending is for the health unit, because I'm not so sure that's essential. And when dollars matter, and property tax dollars do matter, because 15% of the health unit spending is through the county, so it affects people in Owen Sound, and it affects people in Grey County, I think that there is room to take a closer look at the dollars that are being spent. So I'm not sure, it's good to support it. On the other hand, I can definitely see the other side of this.
Thank you. Councillor Lemon?
Well, I think one of the problems has been public health spending has exploded over the years. And I think the province is saying, just a second, we've got to look at are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? And it has changed dramatically from what it was many years ago. And are they doing things that are not essential? We're just in the process of looking at what we're doing where we can shave points and still maintain the best service model we can. And perhaps the province is trying to do the same with the health units and say, guys, these budgets cannot continue to grow gigantically. There was just uncovered, I think it was the one program where CCAC, where the directors in each area were being paid, I don't know, 150, 200,000. These costs have gotten criminal, and it's the taxpayer who is paying the bill. And I really feel that the health unit should be under the same scrutiny as any other provincial or municipal service.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Deputy Mayor Wright.
Thank you very much. CCAC has nothing to do with the Board of Health. It's totally different. The Grey Bruce Health Unit looks after the health of the entire county of Grey, for one thing, and speaking to the one program of breastfeeding, they do promote healthy babies, because healthy babies produce healthy teeth, that cut down on that cuts down on the cost, and healthy children that cuts down on the cost. So it's a preventive medicine. It's not curing medicine, it's preventive, and we need to have the preventive medicine, and it starts with babies. So that's why that program is such. The cost for the health unit, yes, it comes out of the county coffers, which does land on our tax bill eventually, but it's they still have the increases where they have nurses on staff, they have staff, and that they face the same increases in benefits and salaries as anyone else. And if you don't get the cost of benefits and salaries increase that the rest of the government gives out, then of course you're falling behind all the time. So there have been programs. I sat on the health board for I think 5 or 6 years, I'm not sure. There have been programs that the health unit has not been able to do because they haven't had the money to do it, and which is unfortunate, because the programs are I believe are very necessary for the health of the public and on the immunization. So I don't think there's, and I can see the government saving money in health, but I don't think it should come from preventative medicine. I think it can come from other areas.
So you moving?
I did move it, yes.
Did move it, okay, sorry. Any other discussion? All in favor of Deputy Mayor Wright's motion, which is to adopt the resolution from Brockton? All in favor? I'm seeing it's carried. 10D in the list, Clerk's Department, Municipality of Nebing, with regard to consultation on the Police Services Act with the province. You want to speak to that? Councillor Gregg?
Well, the first thing I thought when I saw this resolution was, where is Nebing? Which is located south of Thunder Bay and utilizes an OPP detachment out of Thunder Bay for the provision of their police services. I know that it's expected from the taxpayers in Owen Sound that we will look at every avenue to reduce the tax burden in Owen Sound, and if there is something that can be changed in the police services to make, and I don't sit in the police board, I have no idea if there's any potential here, but I guess if there is an opportunity at this time relating to the Police Services Act being looked at, which may provide assistance to municipalities in offsetting the rising costs, then it's something that we need to also look at and support. So,
other comments?
With that, I would move supporting the resolution.
So it's moved. Councillor McManaman?
I'm just wondering, should we send this to the police board for consideration? Because it speaks here to using non-uniformed personnel for day-to-day policing. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I know there are systems out there where you don't have to have a sworn officer. Parking enforcement is one. There's other examples of that, so I'm not sure exactly what they're getting at, but...
In Ontario, provincial offenses can be policed or enforced by non-police officers. In Alberta, small towns are contracting, municipalities are contracting to RCMP to provide police services. Then they have a lower tier of officers that may not carry a gun. They're not doing criminal investigations the same way. They may be investigating accidents. They may be investigating, I don't know exactly what, but it is to not have to have a fully trained RCMP officer attending everything. And so it's just to discuss, I think, with the minister putting it into the act, that this opportunity would become available in Ontario for anybody to consider. So I'm not sure that it needs to go to the board at this point. We're just supporting that it becomes an option, I think, under the act, would be my understanding of the resolution. Go ahead.
No, that's a good explanation. I just, there are representatives dealing with policing matters. I'm just wondering if they shouldn't be the ones considering this, that's all. But it's not necessarily right or wrong, just...
I think that... anyone else? No. Councillor Kepke?
I think that the Police Services Board should at least get a copy if this council's endorsing this. They should be copied in on
That's easy.
that to know what we're doing.
Okay. So I think Councillor Gregg is sticking to his motion, adding that we'll send a copy to the police board from here. So I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Good, thanks. Last item under correspondence, there's been lots, 11E. Michael Cateau, probably pronouncing that wrong, Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sport, with regard to 2021 Canada Summer Games, received a letter setting out advising of a meeting in Toronto on December 9th, I believe, if we're interested in participating as a municipality or looking at the Ontario or the Canada Summer Games in 2021. Anybody? Go ahead, Councillor Lemon.
Well, for a number of reasons, I'm not a runner, but could we be running a marathon here? I'm asking Councillor Gregg because he knows more about marathons than the rest of us combined.
Well, I wouldn't get so specific to one event. I think this is an opportunity to look at a variety of events that are within the summer games. And the size of our community, I don't think allows us to self-contain and host every one of them. So I think there's perhaps, an ability to partner with some neighbors or Blue Mountains and utilize facilities that may be over there. But for sure, I think in terms of what do we have to offer for the summer games to be located here, I think we've got everything. Absolutely.
Except for housing.
Well, we may end up with empty public schools.
Good answer. So I guess it would kind of depend on whether we can peel off events like triathlon, road racing, mountain biking, something like that, versus trying to host the whole thing. Councillor McManaman, do you know?
We, a number of years ago, we looked at the winter games, I believe, and we were nowhere near big enough, and this is considerably larger than the winter games in terms of track and field stadium, just as one example. I don't know if there's somebody else locally and we could partner. I guess you never know, but I don't know how you'd find out if there's interest locally from other groups, because I don't think there'd be anybody, probably north of Guelph that would have a stadium anywhere near big enough to host this. So I'm not sure where you go by December 9th, but...
I'm going to go to Mr. Ritchie.
I've just been conferring with Ms. Coulter here, and perhaps your worship, certainly staff could make a call to Ashley, and I don't even want to try the last name, but to garner more information as to possible cost, obviously. I'm sure they would have at least enough information that we could perhaps, again, on December 2nd of this week, we were meeting on the budget, perhaps bring back what we find out tomorrow, and it may give council more information for a decision at that time.
Okay, good, thanks. So can I have, I guess, a motion to receive this? Councillor Lemon is moving it. All in favor? Good, thank you. We'll wait staff's follow-up on that. So we're down to 11A1, which is with regard to the La France pumper fire truck. And I think Mr. Ritchie is going to give us some information on that in a minute. We see former Councillor John Christie in the room that's done an awful lot of work on this. So, Mr. Ritchie, fire truck.
Thank you, Your Worship. Certainly, the report, I believe, speaks for itself. We have and the chief is here as well, we have a 1923 La France pumper truck that was actually operational on Owen Sound, and Mr. Christie has a tremendous history on it if we want to get into that. That truck has been on the books, I will say, ever since I came to my former position, and I don't believe anything has happened on it. I believe perhaps John made the contact between our chief and Grey Roots to move this along. They have offered, perhaps as part of their Grey Roots exhibition out there, that they would refurbish this truck in their garage. They have volunteers who do that, and perhaps that makes a natural fit also where it should be on display and shown on a permanent basis. We would come to an agreement with the Grey Roots with the county actually for, you know, that the city could use it for ceremonial purposes and special events. I think it would take what clearly is not going to happen under our watch for a number of reasons, and perhaps get this truck, you know, out on display so the public sees exactly what a 1923 La France pupper looks like, Your Worship.
Good, thank you. Councillor Kepke?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think this is really exciting for the city and Grey Roots and the partnership they're building there with the county. As a volunteer at Grey Roots, I certainly won't be working on the truck, but I do volunteer out there, and my year is 1853, so a little bit before 1923, but I'm happy to move the motion in this report.
So your year is?
1853.
Was this a birth year? I'm getting distracted.
This is my
here.
volunteer year.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's the era that I volunteered at Grey Roots.
So you're moving the...
I'm moving the motion in the report.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Good. Done. Next is, I think, Mr. Ritchie report with regard to the sale phase of the port's asset transfer program.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, I believe the report pretty well speaks for itself, but for the public, we have received a letter from Transport Canada that they would like to perhaps give us more information on a sale phase for the port. We need to sign a letter of intent as well as a information disclosure agreement, and they will send us more information. At this time, staff is recommending that we do that to receive this more information. We have 90 days from November 20th, I believe, to have our offer in place. That's certainly a very tight timeline, but until we get the information, Your Worship, we really can't do much. So we are recommending that we take the next step. There's no commitment on either party, but this would allow us to have information exactly that any purchaser would need to move ahead with this.
So this is like previous programs that they want to divest. They want to divest their interest in ports. This is like previous programs. My recollection that this one was announced in about April by what is now a previous federal government, and there is a couple of phases of whether you want to bid on it, and obviously as it keeps moving down the track, nobody's bidding on it.
So Your Worship, might be I'm going to say we're getting towards, we feel, the last phase of the sale phase.
And I believe this means that members of the public could, or corporations could apply as well now, correct?
I believe they may be next, Your Worship.
Okay.
And if that doesn't happen, then they would turn again to the divestiture phase. But this is the last municipal portion of the sale phase. It's really only get us information so that we can make an informed decision.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Wright, push your button and say it.
Certainly, Your Worship. I will move that recommendation, that we sign the letter of intent and get more information on this.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Mr. Ritchie, number 3 under 11A, which is oral report, Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund.
Thank you, Your Worship. We received the letter, I believe, as we had mentioned when we were at our first phase of budget. The good news is the amount we projected to receive in 2016 is almost to the penny. It'll be $654,000. The treasurer will be doing a full report on the OMPF funding early in 2016. The transition funding this year, which is really the gap between what we're entitled to and what we're going to receive, is $28,000. So again, Your Worship, first glance, if no criteria change and our statistics say the same, the amount we would lose in 2017 would be $28,000. So we have in fact reached our base amount under the assessment equalization grant, which is $626,000. So it, in one way, is good news, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Lemon.
Sort of good news. My question deals with the funding for courthouse security. Is that going up again this year?
Through Your Worship, no, it looks to me like it is leveled off, Your Worship. It's 232.4, and I believe that is very close to the figure we were receiving last year. At the top of my head, it's very close.
Was it supposed to go up more than this? It was supposed to continue to grow?
Well, that was certainly what we were led to believe when this agreement was signed, but they have, as I recall, and Ms. Golder was actually somewhat involved in that, and I'm not certainly blaming her for that, but I believe they have changed that formula partway through the agreement, I would say.
Thank you.
And do we know the dollar amount that has been reduced this year from last year approximately? About 100?
Roughly $180,000. We would certainly see on Wednesday, Your Worship, because it's right on the tally sheet.
Okay, so that's about...
It's 15%, Your Worship.
6%
Of a mill
approximately
rate.
of our taxes
Yes.
that is going just to recover that. Good, thank you. Motion to receive the oral report. Councillor Kepke,
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the receipt of that report.
all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Number 4, Ms. Stobo, Downtown Improvement Area Board of Management vacancies.
Your Worship, in this report is to confirm the persons as directed by council after reviewing applications in closed session, and council has directed from closed session that the following persons be appointed to the Board of Management for the Downtown Improvement Area. It would include Inspector Vincent Werfel, Lisa Cruikshank, and Rodney Roger. And we also have a bylaw naming those persons if council is content to approve those appointees.
Good, thank you. Councillor Lemon?
Yes, Your Worship, I would so move the appointment of the 3 aforesaid persons to the DIA board.
Any further discussion? Councillor Gregg?
When seeing this report, it was seemingly to me, I mean, just having the business downtown, this came about fairly quickly, and I just have a little bit of a concern now on the representing the membership downtown and merchants. The merchants not getting sufficient notice from the DIA or having reasonable opportunity to take part in the DIA. I just have a little bit of a fear that this is becoming a little bit closed. And I'm not sure if our DIA council members can just ensure that that's not the case and that communications are perhaps increasing or very transparent with the businesses downtown. Everybody may be busy. However, I just worry that maybe not enough information was passed out in the community in terms of 3 elected like this. So.
I'll go to Councillor O'Leary, who sits on that board.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can certainly look into that. I don't get the sense that, I think we'd be happy if we had downtown business people on the DIA board, but I can certainly look into it and see if the proper information is getting out to all the businesses, and maybe that's something we can look into. I'd be glad to.
Good, thank you. So Councillor Lemon's motion is in place.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add, I do know it was in the DIA newsletter that goes out, that they were looking for people to sit on the board.
Good, thank you. All in favor, those 3 appointments, that is carried. Thank you. 11A5, report from Ms. Stobo again with regard to Public Sector MPP Accountability and Transparency Act.
Your Worship, Bill 8 was enacted in December 2014 and came into effect in phases. It extends the Ombudsman's authority to school boards, municipalities, and universities over and above provincial ministries and agencies of the province. Of course, it's been in effect for many years regarding provincial government agencies and ministries. It will extend the Ombudsman's authority to investigate or to review and conduct early resolution processes for complaints about municipalities effective January 1, 2016. In short, that would relate to complaints well beyond the current framework for complaints about closed meeting processes. It would open up complaints related to customer service, conduct of staff and/or council members, conflicts of interest, various service complaints, garbage collection, snow removal, parks maintenance, etc., municipally owned utilities, and various accountability mechanisms or the lack of them. Complaints can be made broadly by residents, ratepayers, family members of any of them, municipal staff, members of council, or other officials, for instance, county officials about city business, members of interest groups, or anyone with a concern. Under the Ombudsman's Act, all complaints, including the identity of the complainant, are confidential, and investigations are conducted in private. Unfortunately, with these types of complaints, unlike closed meeting complaints, it may be difficult to process a complaint if the complainant's name is not made known to the municipality. So it would depend on the nature of the complaint, whether it would be a confidential matter where the complainant's name would not be disclosed. In cases involving closed meetings, as I indicated, it's not really necessary to know the name of the complainant, because the fact of the matter is it involves a complaint about whether or not a meeting should have been held in closed or open session. Complainants will be questioned by ombudsman staff before a complaint is processed to confirm whether or not they've actually contacted the municipality about the problem. If not, they may be referred back to the appropriate local officials to make that contact and to follow through whatever processes are available within the municipality. If the matter isn't resolved, the ombudsman could step in to offer assistance and to review the matter. At a recent session in October, Laura Pettigrew, who was senior counsel at the Ombudsman's office, she confirmed that this process would not replace local complaint processes or mechanisms. Unfortunately, there wasn't a sufficient amount of time offered in that session to review the full impacts that Bill 8 will have on this municipality and others. For one, it's only been made clear, definitively clear, that unless a municipality has adopted a complaint process for various types of complaints prior to January 1, the ombudsman will have jurisdiction to investigate complaints. Now, of course, they will ask a complainant whether or not they've contacted local officials, etc. But in order to ensure that the municipality itself first investigates and processes complaints, we would have to adopt various processes, not just for complaints about members of council or code of conduct for employees, but general administrative complaint processes. So my suggestion and staff's suggestion in this report is that we review the current complaint processes of the municipality, bring a report forward to the bylaw committee, and from there, hopefully, a report can be brought to council to determine exactly what existing policies we have. I mean, I'm aware of some of them just from the reviews so far, but how much we have to amend those. And I can say we have met with different clerks at the county level, 2 or 3 meetings so far, but their focus has been primarily on the code of conduct for council, and it's quite apparent that this is a much broader issue we have to look at. I'm a little concerned about time, and we have very little time to take a report to the bylaw committee, but it's something that really has to be done in order to ensure that the municipality has control of its complaint processes. And one more issue on that, which I think is important, like it's very important for private business as well as public authorities to have clear complaint making, complaint review, and complaint processing and resolution processes. It's very much in their interest to do so. And I think the Ombudsman's office, well, to be blunt, they have given municipalities quite a few years to develop complaint processes, whether they wish to appoint an ombudsman themselves, as the City of Toronto did, or whether they wish to hire integrity commissioners, but also to develop internal complaint processes and mechanisms. Now, we certainly have some, as most municipalities do, but I think we have to refine those to be in compliance with this act and to avoid full-scale investigations of something that we could investigate ourselves.
Great, thank you. Councillor Kepke.
Thank you, Your Worship. As indicated, the process is complicated and requires more time for the bylaw committee to review, and there is a time sensitiveness to this, so the bylaw committee can certainly have the date changed to accommodate this report at their next meeting. So if that would like to be considered and other dates handed out. Giving that as well, Your Worship, I'd be pleased to move the recommendation contained in the report.
Thank you. Other comments, discussion? I wonder, just as a thought as we're going through this, if this is something that we should be looking at our county to, if there's going to be some kind of investigation mechanism that we do it. If we're going to end up appointing somebody, maybe we do it county-wide, or if there's other opportunities going forward, perhaps, that we can look at. So seeing no further discussion, all in favor of that motion? That is carried. Thank you. Thanks for the information. Down to number 6 with regard to, looks like Ms. Stobo again, with regard to a closing a part lane or doing something with a part lane.
Your Worship, this matter originally arose I believe it's 1904, when the Plan 184 was registered. It showed a lane, and at that time they weren't deemed to be public lanes. However, in 1920, the Surveys Act changed and deemed roads to be public lanes at that stage. So this one was never opened as a public lane. And if you look at the schedules which are attached to this report, which I'll just try and get to there. Sorry, there's a couple of, should be colored, but they aren't really colored, but you can see in this area right here, there's a small part of the original lane that was shown on a survey plan back in 1904, and it's within this part too. All of these parts were declared surplus and offered to the abutting owners back a number of years ago, but this part wasn't included. It's always been there and it's never been opened. Part of it apparently is under the building on part 2, which was the old Noble Insurance office, I take it. What we're seeking here, because it's never been opened and there's been no other activity involving, as I understand it, that portion of the lane, we're seeking council's authorization for the mayor and the clerk to sign an acknowledgement that the city does not have an interest in that particular lane.
Quit claim?
It's not exactly a quit claim. When the lands were transferred from the registry system to the land title system, what happened with the registrar, when they didn't fully understand what interest a municipality had in what appeared to have been an old lane on an old survey plan, they simply put subject to the interest of the municipality. And so it had to be sorted out at some point. And that's what this landowner is asking to do so they can sell this property.
Great, thank you. Councillor O'Leary?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation.
All in favor? That is carried. Good, thank you. Number 7, report Human Resources Supervisor. Annie gonna, good, Annie's gonna present it? Get you to push that button, oh, there we go.
The first report is more of a housekeeping item. We're just looking to update our OMERS participation bylaw to reflect what our current participation is. So just removing the previous boards that used to fall under the city's plan, making sure the list that we currently have following under the city's plan is accurate. And we also passed a bylaw in 2007 authorizing the head of council and council to participate. So we're just looking to up the bylaw to ensure it's current and that we're in compliance with the act.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thomas, I think.
So moved.
Yeah, it looked like a race and he wanted, all in favor? That is carried, thank you. Now we'll go to number 8, which again is your report
Yes.
on non-union benefits for new employees.
So the report is recommending that City Council authorize HR to enroll new hires in the new non-union benefit plan. The changes to the plan were outlined in the report. I'm happy to go through them if you would like me to talk about the specific changes. Otherwise, I'd also be happy to answer any questions.
If you could, because there's people watching on TV,
Sure.
it'd be great if you
Sure.
can present it so we understand what we're talking about.
Okay, so the changes that we're proposing were made after we had our 24% increase last year in our benefits and anticipated increase of 10% in 2016. We went to our benefit consultants to look at possible ways we could change the way we're administering our benefits for our employees, but not change the actual level of coverage that our employees have. So the changes that we came up with were to change the dispensing fee from $12.99 to $10. And what that change means is that if a local pharmacy is charging more than $10 for a dispensing fee, the employee would be required to pay the additional dollars over the $10. In the report, there was a list of local pharmacies that are charging less than $10, so there are options that employees can use in Owen Sound where they wouldn't have to pay any out-of-pocket money other than the $2 copayment. The second change was to the mandatory generic drugs. That change means that employees will automatically receive the generic version of a drug unless there's a medical reason that they need to have the brand name. Then they would have an option to obtain that with an approval form from their physician. And the third change was to change the per visit limit for chiropractor, massage therapist, and physiotherapist to $50 per visit. The coverage would still remain at $350 per service per year. It would just be the per visit cap that would change. So the plan would pay the first $50. If the service was more than $50, the employee would be required to pay the additional cost. And the last change was the number of scaling units. We had an unlimited amount on our plan. We're looking to change that cap to 8 units per year. And speaking with my dentist, he indicated that the average number a person would require is about 4 units per year. So it really shouldn't have an impact on anyone specifically unless they're needing more than that 8 units per year. The changes will lower annual premium costs for those employees who have already elected to participate in the plan. And then we'll see further savings if new non-union employees are enrolled in the plan. I did mention in my report as well that we do need to be mindful when we're looking at our benefit coverage. We want to maintain a comprehensive plan so that we remain a competitive employer in the area and we can recruit quality candidates as well as retain the current employees that we have. So we don't want to completely alter the level of benefit coverage, but these administrative changes are relatively minor and we will see a savings in our premium costs.
Good, thank you. Councillor Dodd?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess just a question through you. This benefits package that you got going on here that you're proposing, is this something similar to what other businesses are doing, other corporations are offering their employees? I'm more speaking about the generic drug option.
It is a trend that the benefits consultants have indicated most municipalities are looking to change to.
Right. Okay, so overall, you're saying for the non-union employees, really the pharmaceutical change, the only thing that's going to happen is that if you are getting a prescription, it's going to come through a generic drug unless you medically need a name brand drug.
Correct.
So obviously it's going to save on some of that cost. But besides that, no other real changes overall. The total limit changes, right? So you're just saying per visit changes might change, but the actual total limit overall for for the paramedical, for example, it's still $350. It's just a change from, you might not get an hour massage, you might only get covered for a half an hour massage.
Right.
Okay. I'd be more than happy to move that recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor McManaman?
Thank you, Worship. Just to clarify, the program would be for new hires. You mean new non-union hires?
Correct.
Correct? Yeah, thank you.
Going to go to Mr. Ritchie first.
Thank you, Worship. If I could, certainly as we brought this plan forward to our union groups and our associations, it quite frankly was rejected. And we took it to our non-union group, and I think in the report, Annie, it was roughly 20 out of 70 people having explained, just as Annie has done perhaps in a little more detail, accepted to voluntarily go on that. And we thought, again, you have to start somewhere with some group. That's always what we hear. It's not that big a deal, but someone else needs to start it first. Well, you know, the option for council is to certainly start it with new hires. It's a brand-new arrangement. We've offered them employment. They've accepted the employment. This is the terms of that employment. Because, as I've mentioned many times, the cost of benefits, our plans are 100% employer paid. I believe the plans are very good plans, but they are very expensive for the ratepayer. And this is a start, Your Worship.
Sorry, it went up 24% last year and 10 this year?
Annie has mentioned we have renegotiated that, certainly through their hard work, and our consultant to get it down to about 5.4% increase this year.
But still, that's huge. Councillor O'Leary, I think you were next.
Yeah, sorry, just for the people at home, so there has been 22 people volunteered to this, and it's been a savings of how much? $4,000 or $5,000?
$4,000.
Great, thanks.
Okay, other discussion? All in favor of the motion? That is carried. Thank you. Number 8 is, no, we just did that. Number 9 is next, and I believe this is the one that I have a pecuniary interest, so.
This is regarding the dedication of lands as a public highway, and this is the 4th Street West Woodlands Estate subdivision. Recommendation is that in consideration of a staff report respecting the dedication of lands for public highway, City Council hereby accepts the report and authorizes the passing of a bylaw. Is any staff want to explain it? Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor, members of council, as part of the plan of subdivision for the Woodland Estates subdivision, which was executed between the municipality and Barry's Construction and Insulation Limited, certain parcels of land were to be transferred to city ownership and dedicated as part of the public road allowance. In particular, Block 65 of Registered Plan 16M38 was required to be dedicated as part of the public road allowance, and due to a clerical error, that did not happen. The proposed recommendation would simply be to clear up a housekeeping matter that would formally transfer the property to city ownership, and through the passage of the bylaw, dedicated as part of the public road allowance. It's purely an administrative matter.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments or questions? Councillor Levin.
I would move the recommendation.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. He must have been listening because he came right back in. Thank you.
I was in a room down the hall, and I just came out of the door down the hall at the right time. Thank you. We're down to number 10, Special Contracts Manager with regard to solid waste management contract. Mr. Becking?
Thank you, Your Worship. Firstly, I'd like to apologize to council. Unfortunately, we were not able to get this report prepared for you until late this afternoon when it was placed on your desk for tonight's meeting. Council may wish to postpone dealing with the matter until the special meeting on Wednesday in order to give you time to digest the report and formulate your opinions. So I ask for council's direction.
Just want to hold on, and I'll just go through council. It is in our desk. I don't know who's been able to see it. Any ideas? Councilor McManaman?
I don't object, or in fact, I'm in favor of discussing it on Wednesday. I am wondering, since this meeting is televised, if Mr. Becking could just give us a brief overview of what the report is, then I'd be happy to make a motion to table.
Okay, Mr. Becking, thank you.
Certainly, Your Worship, if that's the wish of council. Council will recall that the matter of the renewal of the solid waste contracts was discussed at your session of November 9th. And the direction that came out of that meeting was threefold. First of all, there was an agreement in principle to a new contract with Miller Waste for the garbage collection and disposal contract, agreement in principle for a recycling collection and marketing proposal, and agreement in principle for a source-separated organics program. Subject to further discussions and negotiations with both Miller Waste and Georgian Bluffs relating specifically to the source-separated organics program. And you requested that a report be brought back to council to indicate what the financial implications of those various directions would be under a number of scenarios, including looking at possible increases in revenues. Consistent with that direction, staff met with representatives from Georgian Bluffs on November 20th to review the digester and to assess its suitability for accepting the city's source-separated organics. We reviewed the site and determined that, to the best of our knowledge and belief, the digester could accept source-separated organics, subject to the caveat, however, that the organics must be not contaminated with bags and plastic in particular, because it has the potential to gum up the works, as it were, and cause considerable difficulty for the operator. Why this is important is because, as I explained in my earlier presentation, in order to make the organics program palatable to the public, you typically have to line the containers with some form of bag in order to contain the mess and deal with what is commonly referred in the industry as the yuck factor. Failing to do so, you will not get buy-in from the public in terms of utilizing the SSO program. For that reason, it makes it difficult for us to be able to get our SSO to Georgian Bluffs in its current state. We discussed the matter with Miller Waste, which was the second part of your direction, and we found that they generally agreed with our assessment of the situation. The digester works, it serves the purpose for which it was intended, but unfortunately the limitations on being able to accept the city's material would impose considerable difficulties from a practical perspective on the city and its collection process. And for that reason, there's a need for pre-processing of the SSO before it is put into the digester. In order to do that efficiently and effectively, there is a requirement for the investment in equipment and resources to do the pre-processing, and based on our discussions with Miller Waste, they felt that there is insufficient quantity of SSO that would be generated by the city in and of itself to be able to make the kinds of investments that would be required in order to make it financially viable. Miller were of the opinion, and based on their logic, I concur with their opinion that something in the order of 2,500 tons of SSO per year would be required in order to make it financially viable so that you can amortize the pre-processing equipment and facility into the program and make it financially viable, both from the operator's perspective, from Miller's perspective, because they're front-ending, of course, this rather sizable investment, but also making it making the cost sufficiently low to make the SSO program financially viable for the municipalities. They felt, based on their knowledge of the area, that there is sufficient SSO within southern Grey County to make it viable to put something in place, but it would need the cooperation of several municipalities, including the city, in order for that to come about. And that is not going to come in sufficient time for the city to be able to make a decision about whether or not to pursue an SSO program. The other difficulty that we're facing is not knowing what the cost of the pre-processing might be. We then cannot, with any degree of confidence, give council any advice with respect to what is the likely cost to handle the city's SSO. For that reason, we're in a position where we're not able to give you the kind of answers to the questions that you've been asking. For that reason, staff have come up with a recommendation which, for your consideration, first and foremost is the award of the two contracts, one for the garbage collection and disposal, and the second for the recycling collection and marketing. Those two contracts must be awarded before the 15th of December because of the irrevocable period being terminated at that time. Those two contracts must be awarded because our current contracts lapse in May 31st to be precise, and we need to renew those contracts. They've been extended far too many times. So that needs to happen. With respect to the remainder of the recommendation, it's staff recommendation that we not pursue SSO at this point in time and work with Georgian Bluffs and our surrounding neighbors and Miller to try and cobble together a program that will make sense not only for the city of Owen Sound but also for all of our neighbors and supports Georgian Bluffs in making their digester viable in the longer term. If council chooses not to pursue that recommendation, then your alternative recommendation would be to implement the RFP that was submitted by Miller for SSO, which would envisage biweekly collection of SSO from within the city and transfer of that material to Altreat Farms in Arthur at a cost of an additional $494,500.
Good, thank you. Councilor McManaman? Coming back to you.
Your Worship, it was my intention to table it, but I'm wondering, is there any point to, I'm looking around the table and seeing a lot of people saying, let's just discuss it now, so.
Okay.
Your Worship, I make a motion to table till Wednesday.
Well, hold on, Councillor Lemon. Did you have the floor?
No, the motion to table, please, President.
Okay, Councillor Lemon's motion to table, so any discussion? Seeing none on the tabling motion. All in favor to table? See Councillor Lemon opposed. That is defeated. Back to you, Councillor McMahon, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. We all discussed this at budget and had hoped that we could implement a green bin program for next year. I think we voted all in favor of it. We all thought it was a good idea. We all wanted to do it. That was based on on a discussion that we could do it, partner with our neighbor, perhaps help solve a problem they have with that biodigester, help solve our problem with reducing waste and being more environmentally friendly. Given the information that Mr. Becking has in this report, though, it appears that this is not the time, both practically and financially. Our only option one here, that we award the waste contract and the recycling contracts to Miller. That's going to increase, we have no real choice on that, and that's going to increase our cost by about $200,000. The only other option is, if we do want to go with source separated organics, is to send it to the facility, the closest facility, which is in Arthur, at an additional cost on top of that 200 of another 280. You know, so as much as I would like to be the one moving that motion, there's no way financially we can do it at this time, I don't think. So, Your Worship, with that in mind, I'll move option 1, that we award those contracts, and that is without the source separated organics component in it.
Okay,
That's
thank
option
you.
1 on the table here on your sheets.
So that's the garbage collection and processing and recycling.
And recycling.
Okay, Councillor O'Leary, I think, was next. Councillor Kepke.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think with the green bin program, it's the right thing to do at the wrong time. And in addition to that, I don't see adding a $200,000 service when we're about to do an analysis in March. So I will be voting in favor of the motion. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Kepke.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just first of all, to clarify, was it staff's recommendation for option 2 in the report? Which means implement option 1 plus at a later date, look at source separation?
Your Worship, the staff recommendation is items 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
1 and 2. So in other words, 1, which is to award the recycling and the garbage collection and disposal contracts, and to work with Miller and other parties towards developing a program that can be implemented to the benefit of all communities. Thank you.
Just, that's fine, Your Worship.
With no, I should add, Your Worship, with no commitment at this time.
That's motion was, that was what you intended?
Yes, that's right.
All right, okay, to clarify. Yeah, so I just wanted to publicly say that I'm certainly in favor of source-separated organics, but I'm not in favor of it costing the taxpayer at this time any more money.
Good. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Wright.
Thank you. I was just a little concerned over just going with number 1, but we're going with 1 and 2. And I particularly appreciated the letter that from Dennis Goulet that set out that they're going to be looking at working with George and Bluffs and speaking with Mayor Barfoot. That's the indication that they are going to work to try and solve some of the problems they have. So perhaps in a year or 2 or 3 down the line, we'll be able to go, Miller will be able to say to us, we can use George and Bluffs as our waste, getting rid of our waste, and that would be positive. So that's, I certainly support it, and I do have a question about recycling. I will ask after the vote if that's okay.
Okay, remind me if I forget. Thank you. Back to Councillor Gregg, I think had his hand up next.
I had one question, and as it pertains to what we receive back from Waste Stewardship Ontario, is that based upon our collection or rates of shifting or reducing waste? Like, do we get more money by increasing from 50% to 60% diversion?
Yes.
So I'm wondering why that doesn't show in the table here of recycling grants, recycling revenues. Those are even all through 5 columns. So I have a problem.
The rationale, Your Worship, is that the rate of diversion would be the same under all of the scenarios. If your question relates to SSO, There are currently no grants provided for SSO programs. That having been said, within the last 2 days, the Ministry of Environment and Energy issued a notice of intent to modify the legislation with respect to waste diversion, and inherent within their proposed changes, there may be, and I emphasize the word may, be an opportunity to get grants for SSO at some point in the future, but at present there are no provisions within any act that would allow that to happen.
Well, just to clarify then, so if we increase our diversion rates, those grants and revenues cannot change. They'll be consistent because we would be diverting more from the waste stream.
No, there is no diversion. The only grants that we receive, Your Worship, are for recycling. We do not get any kind of grants for diversion of any other waste other than, and then there's a minor caveat for household hazardous waste, where we do get a small grant. But other than those two components, there are no grants for any further diversion.
Thank you. Councillor Whitman next.
A couple of questions. Number one, this pre-treatment, you mentioned this is what Miller said needed to go on. Did we talk to Georgian Bluffs and see what they required?
We talked to Georgian Bluffs. We went and saw the facility, and we talked to their operator, and yes, they confirmed that they cannot have any contamination in any form. Even paper bags would have would choke up their system as it presently exists.
And the other question I have is in looking at, I'm not suggesting we go to all treat, I prefer to deal with it locally, but the tipping fee would be $90 per ton, which is exactly the same as garbage going to Michigan. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So this wouldn't be an increase then, because there'd be a decrease in the garbage going to Michigan. See what I'm balancing?
No, there isn't a balance because there's an additional collection cost and additional handling costs that would result from the separation out of SSO.
Okay, so that's where the difference is.
$280,000 of additional expense comes from.
So what we would save on the one, we'd pay on the other.
Correct.
Thank you.
There's no net financial advantage.
Just before I go back to Councillor McManaman, no, he doesn't need to. I'm convinced that there's 9 people at this table that would love to move ahead with it if. But it's the cost of moving ahead with it, and I think we're all a little more excited, and we thought we could help out our neighbors, Georgian Bluffs, make their system work a little bit better if we got to send our materials there for the right price that made sense to us. So hopefully, going forward, there's something that works out. Councillor O'Leary, was your hand going back on?
Yeah, thanks. Through your worship, I forgot to mention, thanks to Mr. Becking for putting this program or report together. I know it's been tight for time and a lot on your plate. Thanks very much.
Good. Thank you. So I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, now I'm going back to Deputy Mayor Wright with regard to recycling.
Mr. Becking, just quickly, when we get revenue from recycling, a lot of that is, or some of it is aluminum cans?
That's correct, Your Worship.
And how do they know how many aluminum cans? I mean, how do they judge that?
It's based on tonnage.
Okay.
And we know, broadly speaking, what the components of the various items of material. We have multiple streams of diversion. Okay. So we have a stream for fiber, which would include paper products and the like. We have glass products and containers. We have metals, cans, and the like. And so by knowing how much we're putting out and some reasonable estimates of what percentages of each component we are issuing. On that basis, then, we are compensated accordingly.
Okay, so if we have, I'm not sure what to call them, but gentlemen that go around the city and pick our garbage and take our aluminum cans out of our blue boxes, they are in fact stealing from the taxpayer?
I guess the short answer to your question, Your Worship, is yes, that is the case. I don't know about the city's bylaws, but I know in many jurisdictions there's a bylaw provision that prohibits scavenging. Whether or not it's strictly legal or not, I would have to go back and check our current bylaw, but arguably, once it's put out at the curb, it belongs to the city.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor McManaman?
I was just going to say, this has been raised in previous years, and my recollection is once it's at the curb, it's the property of the city. And anybody who takes it out of a blue box at the curb is in fact in violation of our bylaw. I wouldn't suggest a citizen's arrest, but this has been raised before, and it was an issue.
Cost of enforcement versus cost of can is... Thanks. That answers? Yeah. Good, thank you. You're excused if you need to be.
No, Your Worship, I'm just moving on to the next one.
It's the verbal report with regard to Ryerson Park.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council requested an update on the status of the Ryerson Park reconstruction. Consistent with that direction, I'm here this evening to get you up to speed on where we're at. I'll talk about the status of the construction, the works that will be outstanding and to be completed in 2016. There have been some concerns raised in the community as it relates to availability of portions of the park. There are some liability issues, and I'll brief you on some discussions that I've had with our insurers, and I'll discuss some of the mitigating measures that we propose to take with a view to getting council's blessing on the actions proposed so that we can open portions of the park for the winter. Where we stand today, the sidewalks, street furniture, and so forth are in place. The play structure is in place. The amphitheater is about 60% complete, and the site has been fine graded. Outstanding are the landscaping of the site, and by that I'm referring to topsoil and sod or seed and mulch. There's reforestation of the talus slope, and talus slope, for those of you who don't recognize the phrase, a talus slope is simply a rock slope or a gravel slope, and this is the area, you'll recall, where we had the failure of the slope. That has been built up, again, as you'll recall, with granular material, and that's the area that I'm referring to, which will be reforested next spring. In addition, there is some tree planting that is proposed. Again, you'll recall that there were trees originally proposed to be within the right-of-way. Because of some space limitations, a lot of that tree work was moved into the park, and that is still outstanding. There are some drainage measures that still are required in the vicinity of the play structure, and there is a requirement to install some absorbent material. This is the when most of us were kids, that was called sand, and you know, if you fell off the swings or whatever, you ended up in a pile of sand. Well, things are a little more high tech today. It's It's a quasi-rubberized material that allows you to bounce a little bit more than you did when it was sand. Community concerns. The public has voiced concerns about the fact that they have not had access to the park for the entire duration of the construction. In fact, it was used as a laydown area for the contractor during the construction period. It was the only available space that we had, and unfortunately for public safety reasons, the public were not permitted within the park. Obviously, they want a safe park. They would like to have access, given that the fact that they haven't had access for between 6 and 8 months. They would like to get back into the park if possible. And obviously, they would like the park open for the winter period, given that one of the main features within the park is a tobogganing hill, which is a little difficult to be used in June, July, and August. So, we've heard that message loud and clear. There are some liability issues. The park itself is not complete. At present, the park is in the care and control of the contractor. Under the general conditions of the contract, they have, for all practical purposes, temporary ownership of the park. The contractor has voiced their concern that because the park is not complete, it could pose some risks to them, and they feel that those are risks that they're not prepared to accept. Their proposed solution would be to fence off the entire park for the winter months, and they will complete their work and then turn it over to us in the spring. There is an act known as the Occupiers Liability Act, and what that says, and I'm paraphrasing, but the essence of it is that we, as the owners of that property, have an obligation to make it safe and for its intended purposes, and take all reasonable precautions that we can to achieve that objective. And Your Worship, you may correct me on some of my liberties I've taken, but that's the essence as I understand it. The primary issues are the ability to walk through the park, the ability to use the toboggan hill. The proposed response is to fence off the unfinished areas of the park, including the play structure and amphitheater, to restrict access to the talus slope, and fencing to permit access to the walkways. So what that means in practical terms, you may recall seeing this sketch. This is the proposed plan for the park. Just to refresh your memory, the tobogganing hill is here. We have walkways essentially diagonally through the park. Here is the play structure. This is the amphitheater, and the area where we had the slope failures is to the east, and is the area that I'm referring to as the talus slope. The staff proposal is to, as I've indicated, fence off the play structure because, again, we can't put that in a safe condition for the winter months. To fence off the amphitheater because, again, this area is incomplete at the present time and won't be able to be completed by the contractor in time for winter months. And to fence off the entirety of the talus slope and prevent it from being used. In addition, the contractor is being proposed, it's being proposed that the contractor provide no trespass, no keep out signs as an added precaution. That will allow the balance of the park to be opened up, so individuals will be able to walk along the walkways if they choose to do so, as well as it'll be possible for the toboggan hill to be used. The contractor has already gone in and done a good chunk of the fencing already in order to protect himself. And here you can see the talus slope. There's a snow fencing 4.5 or 5 feet high on all 4 sides of the talus slope. Looking down into the park, you can see here's the line coming down, there's the amphitheater, and the fence then cuts across and back over towards the edge of the toboggan hill. It's difficult to see, but there is fencing all the way around the play structures at the present time, and those are intended to remain in place. This photograph here is taken right at the edge, the easterly edge of the toboggan hill, and I'm looking almost due north at this point. This photograph here is taken from the top of the toboggan hill, looking in a downslope direction to the northwest. And here are the 2 pathways. This is, here I'm standing at the northwest corner looking generally southeast, and here I'm standing in the southwest corner looking northeast. I have spoken to the city's insurers and indicated to them the measures that we are proposing to take. They have seen a copy of this presentation in its entirety and have not provided us with any indication of any concerns. From what we're proposing, we would not be accepting any higher risk than that which would exist if the park was complete. So at this point in time, there's no additional risk, and they're satisfied of that fact.
Thank you. Councillor Kepke?
Is it proposed that the walkway through there will be plowed in the winter?
No.
Okay, because I have a concern that it's pretty hard for a tobogganer to stop right at that walkway. They're going to
Well,
be
if you're walking there, then you better watch out.
Right. Thanks.
Councillor Lemon?
Although we are taking preventative actions to prevent accidents from occurring, in reality, if somebody climbs the fence and breaks a leg, I think we're still liable, are we not? By court decisions?
Under the Occupiers Liability Act, if we take reasonable steps to prevent trespass and somebody chooses to do so, they can sue us, or they can attempt to sue us, but they will not be successful. Or it'll be up to the judge to decide whether or not they're successful.
There were cases where they were successful.
Well, I can only quote what's in the act.
Safer than doing nothing. Councillor McManaman?
Thank you, Worship, and thanks to Mr. Becking for this update. Could you go back a couple pictures, because I just had one question. There, right there.
Yes.
There's in the bottom right picture, there's an orange fence that goes right across the park for no, that I can see any particular reason. It's just right in the middle of the park. There's no, and I'm just wondering, tobogganers will go down that hill over the non-plowed sidewalk, and then in some instances they could just hit that fence, and there doesn't appear to be any reason for that fence.
I would suggest that the photograph was taken prior to developing the scheme. I would say from a strictly theoretical point of view, you're correct. That having been said, I'll give any kid that can make that fence from the top of that hill a loony. I don't believe it's possible.
All the others are in place for a reason. That one doesn't. So if there's no reason for it, because right now nobody can just walk across the park. In the winter, I'm talking.
That is strictly speaking correct, but also the fence is there now, and I can assure you it's going to cost us money to take it down, to then have to turn around and put it back up at some point. Potentially, I don't know. But
anyway, well, could that be investigated? Look into that, because again, all the rest are surrounding areas of hazard, if you will, except for that one.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So Mr. Becking, I don't want you taking on liability by enticing kids to risk their lives by aiming for the fence because you've offered them I've got a funny feeling our insurers won't like that. Who else had their hand up down there? Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Mayor Boddy. I would motion that we receive this proposed approach right in front of us right here, and I think it's an excellent job that you did in a short time period bringing this forward for us to look at. I think it's very much worth noting the assistance of the contractors in this site on this construction job too, because as a business individual, I don't think it's always easy to be told to alter certain pathways or things under construction and make alternative or come up with alternatives. So I think they've done a great job. This looks fantastic. I'm with you. That fence is safer than kids tobogganing at Harrison Park where the trees stop the toboggan, not an orange fence. And I would actually say that this is less risky by having the kids be able to toboggan here than an alternative of closing it, because the kids would venture up 8th Street and they would go into the open space at the reservoir, which would be a very dangerous crossing at that spot where there's no sidewalk. So I think this is a great alternative and excellent job. So I'd motion that we receive this proposed approach here.
Okay, any other comments? I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Richard. I think we're down to 11B, consent agenda items. If Ms. Stobo, this is your big night.
Seems to be. Or not so big. Your worship, on the consent agenda, there is a report from the facilities booking coordinator seeking council approval of the use of the Bay Shore and a bylaw to execute an agreement regarding the annual Josh Olin Nick six-shot road hockey tournament at on February 15th, 2016. The City Planning Division has a report that confirms no comment regarding a request for comments related to a notice from Grey County for a redlined revision to a current draft approved plan of subdivision, subdivision number 42T 2004-02 Cobble Beach. The City Planning Division has an additional planning report related to a Grey County notice of a public open house and workshop entitled Green and Gray regarding a natural heritage system study on December 10th. And the planning report confirms city planning staff will attend the session and is unable to make comment at this time. There are planning notices where no report is triggered, minutes of boards and committees for receipt, including the DIA Board of Management meetings on August 19th and September 23rd, 2015. And there's correspondence received, which is presented for the information of council. I can review those individual items by title if you wish, Your Worship. Otherwise, you may be familiar with them.
I'm not seeing any request to review it unless Councillor Lemon's about to.
No, Councillor Lemon is about to declare a conflict of interest on the Cobble Beach matter.
So when you place your vote, you won't be voting on that one, is that what you're saying? Voting on all the others? Fair enough. Okay, Councillor Kepke.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm happy to move the items on the, approval of the items on the consent agenda.
All in favor? That is carried. Councillor Dodd, you've got your hand up there?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just going back to actually one of those, the very first agenda there from the Josh Olnick six-shot road hockey tournament. First of all, I'd like to commend the entire Olnick family for putting this on. This is the 6th annual six-shot road hockey tournament they've brought forward since the passing of Josh Olnick. Just to give you a little background, all the funds that are raised from this tournament are given to the Ice Magic program, which is used towards the funding of the initiation and novice-aged hockey programs here in town. Sorry. I was fortunate to know Josh for quite some time growing up. I'm good friends with actually his sister and the rest of his family. And this tournament is a great representation of both Josh and his family. They're always thinking and caring about others around them by helping future generations play a sport they love. And I just wanted to say that it brings me so much happiness to see this amazing event continue.
Good, thank you. I see minutes there, Councillor O'Leary from the DIA. Anything you want to present?
Sure, thank you, Your Worship. On the first set of minutes, Dave Parsons reported on the downtown revitalization meeting. The meeting was hosted by Savannah Shaws of Hanover's Economic Development and the Rural Economic Development Program. As a result of the meeting, our own Economic Development Committee, along with the Owen Sound District Chamber of Commerce and the DIA, will be setting up a management committee to explore the revitalization goals in our downtown. With that, I'll move the approval.
Oh, they're already moved, so
Okay,
it's just
sorry.
just a report.
Okay, and the next one is the DIA has formed a subcommittee to meet with the Boost Group to work out an arrangement whereby the two groups can work together. I can report that the two groups have a fantastic relationship, and we're all looking forward to this Friday, December 4th, for the Festive First Friday event held in conjunction with the DIA. The Festive First Friday event is from 5 to 9. There'll be Christmas carolers roaming the streets as well as horse and buggy rides. This event, by the way, has turned into something really big. It seems to gain momentum for each one, so we should be proud of Camille Cole and Morag Budgeon for building on the success of this event. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Councillor O'Leary? Seeing none. So that takes us down to 11C, minutes of boards and committees for approval. Number 1 is Community Planning and Heritage Advisory. Councillor Gregg, you want to present that?
Thank you, Mayor Body. The November 5th meeting, we actually welcomed the Economic Development Committee to join us for a review of the downtown harbor and, excuse me, the Owen Sound Harbor and Downtown Master Plan, the presentation. And I might actually mention, it's in the agenda, but it's a lengthy presentation, and if somebody wanted to take a more in-depth look at it, they can click the link found in the Owen Sound agenda, but it's also at https://vimeo.com, which most are familiar with, /RT-communications/145438665/393D7D F407. It's a lengthy title. It might be easy if you didn't get it all. You can pull it off the city's website, off the agenda, but that gives an in-depth review of the presentation which the committee received that night. We had beyond that a fairly light agenda with a facade approval request for just locate it's actually right next door to us, to the north, 832 to 840 2nd Avenue East. The building's had some ongoing work over the last couple of years. It's a community living building, and it's looking great, and there's some further repointing and exterior work that they're asking for a facade grant for this year. We're still within budget. We have had, there was a question during the meeting about building owners or individuals coming back to the city for grants on the same building or perhaps by the same owner. But we, as we saw earlier tonight in the check presentations, currently it's still a good thing. It's not a negative thing here. We passed out 2 new businesses, checks for these new businesses in buildings owned by the same people. But we will have a report coming forward just to explain the wording as it pertains to unique situations like this one or the ones we saw earlier. So with that, I would motion to move acceptance of those minutes.
Good, thank you. Questions for Councillor Gregg? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Number 2 is minutes of Economic Development Tourism Advisory Committee, November 20th. Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, through you, Your Worship. We met at the Owen Sound and North Grey Union Public Library for this meeting and had a nice presentation from our CEO, Tim Nichols-Harrison. He was able to show the community some of the future plans for the library, a very exciting concept called maker spaces. And these are community-operated physical places within the library where people can share their interest in tinkering with technology, meet and create projects, and learn from one another. A really good example is the Metro Toronto Library has several sound recording studios where people, just based on the use of their library card, can go in and cut their own CD. So there are some very exciting concepts out there in terms of maker spaces. Some of the plans for our maker space at the library include a creation station, which will feature a 3D printer, music or video labs, a vinyl cutter, a laser etcher, a 3D doodler, green screens for people who want to shoot their own videos, computer and multimedia software for editing sound and video, a robotics lab, and then a full range of support books and guides to support the tools. The total cost of the project is approximately $40,000, and the library recently received a grant from Community Foundation Grey Bruce in the amount of $7,500, and there are annually a number of bequests left to the library, and some of that money will be put forward. So we're hoping early in the new year to get started on these creation spaces within the library. So stay tuned. It's going to be very exciting. And it is a part of the way libraries are reinventing themselves as community learning hubs in the new century. You know, many of us still like books, but just as many people like to read on their iPad now, and so technology and teaching people how to use technology is becoming more and more a part of what the library's job will be in the future. Further to the meeting, we did have a verbal report on angel investing, and this was identified early in this committee's mandate by one of the members as an area of interest, and he's been doing a lot of research for us. He's been in touch with 3 angel networks, one in the Georgian Bay and Barrie region, one in the Golden Triangle, Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, and there is a Northern Angels network in Thunder Bay, Sudbury. This is Stan Zidbalis who's been doing this for us, and he has met with a number of local investors identified as potential members of an Angels Network. And basically what an Angels Network does is provides funding to startup businesses or businesses looking to expand in an investment way. Some Angel Networks do it out of the goodness of their hearts without too much return looked for. Others operate on more of a business model where they invest the money and expect a full return. No determination has been made what a local Angels Network might be looking like, but we have moved forward with setting up a meeting to which all of council will be invited, and many people in the community. We're going to invite the executive director of the Thunder Bay Angels Network to come to Owen Sound and spend a couple of days and talk to us about how their network works and how we might look at creating such a thing here in Owen Sound. The other main item that we had was a report from our economic development manager, Steve Furness, on many of the things that were conducted during the 2015 economic development season. Staff, of course, attending many external shows, and they do attend these shows now with community partners, primarily Cobble Beach and the Sydenham Sportsmen, who attend more than a dozen shows every year that attract thousands and thousands of people. We attended the Cottage Show, the Zoomer Show, the National Retail Show. There was a job fair held at the Lumley Bayshore Community Centre in partnership with the Family Y, and more than 700 people came out looking for work. So again, very successful, and if you want more details, it's all there in the report. We did have a brief discussion at the end of the meeting on the potential impact of Syrian refugees coming to Meaford, but ultimately there's so little information available at present that all of that's just been put aside for the time being. And that was our meeting, Your Worship. I'll move those minutes.
Questions, discussion, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next one, number 3, minutes of the Fire Services Committee meeting held on November 12th, 2015. Deputy Mayor Wright.
Thank you very much. As said, there was just, the agenda consisted of the information that the mini pumper had been sold, and so it's gone. It brought us in $70,000, and which was great. And also the committee has authorized, we recommend to council that we authorize the purchase of a very well-conditioned and fully equipped used 2013 pumper. I'll move these minutes.
Good, thank you. On the purchase then, are we passing the purchase of that, Mr. Ritchie, by moving this, or this comes to?
Through you, Your Worship, this would, in fact, put it in our 2016 budget. It will be funded through reserves, and certainly we have a plan to replenish those reserves in the coming years. It is a change in our philosophy of our fleet for fire. Certainly the chief and I have discussed it. I believe this particular purchase would allow Owen Sound to have a fleet that will service its needs, not only today, but into the foreseeable future, Your Worship.
So this is, we've been putting money aside in the reserves for this specific purpose?
Well, we have been, Your Worship, and in honesty, this is a slight change in our philosophy of our fleet, and it will require over the coming years that we increase that reserve allowance, but we'll be able to do that in the coming years. But it certainly is a change in our fleet philosophy. Absolutely it is. However, as I say, in discussion with our chief, I am of the opinion this allows us to have a safe fleet for fire protection for this city, not only today, but moving into the future.
Good, thank you. So, any other questions? Going to go, Councillor Gregg, go ahead.
I'm just wondering why the change in direction for the fleet. And I'm wondering, in the last couple of years, what was the capital allocations that council was considering each year in budget, and is this in line with that, or is this has this deviated a little bit from that?
If you want to get into the technical part, I may let the chief speak to that, but I will give you the layman's explanation of what I gathered. This particular truck, again, certainly over the past 6 or 7 years, there was quite a bit of discussion on the mini pumper. And the decision to sell the mini pumper to some extent ended that discussion. This truck is one that is used extensively by fire departments in North America. It has capacity to serve all the needs of the city of Owen Sound, and perhaps an even wider service area than that in the future, should we ever pursue that. It is, but our fleet, as we see it moving ahead, and again, Doug, if I'm wrong, certainly jump in, our fleet would be 1 aerial truck and 2 pumpers, with a pumper in backup, or an aerial backup, sorry, Doug.
Your Worship, I guess what we are looking at is, right now, our frontline apparatus is an aerial platform, is a telesquirt, and then 1 pumper. And what we're looking at down the road is to maintain the aerial platform, the 100-foot platform. The squirt eventually, I believe in 2019, would go into a backup role, and we would be running 2 pumpers. So in essence, we would be, I wouldn't say downsizing, but it would be an actual savings of, at this time, about $500,000, if you look at the cost of the apparatus we have right now.
Good, thank you. Is that answered? Okay. Councillor Dodd, you had a question?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just maybe a little bit more background on this different change of philosophy. I was fortunate that we got to sit in this committee meeting, and Doug gave us a good explanation of why we're going this new route. What is the standards that we're following, Doug? Sorry, Chief.
What we are following is NFPA standards, and the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office has adopted NFPA standards. And in those standards, frontline apparatus, they're recommending 15 years of service, and then they go into a backup role.
So further to your question, Scott, why there's going to be a change in this, because with this new set of standards, we need to now make sure that our frontline units are within the 15-year range. So this is going to be able to put us in that situation to help, and so that way some of our units that are getting older can be backup units. And that way we've got to get a little bit longer time out of these units, opposed to just, right now we're in a situation, if it hits that 15-year mark, and if those still are frontline units, they're not hitting our standards, and so we've got to start moving forward with that.
Good.
Councillor Gregg, sorry,
Thank you, Chief Barfoot. Okay, everyone in favor of adopting those minutes? That is carried. Good, thank you. Number 4, minutes of Recreation Parks Advisory Committee from November 12th, 2015. Councillor McManaman?
Sure, thank you, Your Worship. The biggest part of this meeting was for the tree inventory presentation that council just saw, so I won't really go into that, other than just to reiterate the staff we hired on contract did a great job. Over 6,000 trees done, 3,000 this past summer, so it's a great first step. The rest of the meeting basically went through the parks and open space and facilities capital budget, which we're going to go through on Wednesday. So again, not a whole lot of point in going through it here, other than just to comment, there's a few long-standing issues. The Jervis Bay pillars being repaired, heritage fencing at Greenwood Cemetery, the splash pad washroom will be up for discussion on Wednesday. And also the biggest issue is probably the Harrison Park pool and the status of that and how we're going to move forward with that. We need more information. There's some concerns there with that pool. It's a very sensitive issue, important to the community, and we need to move forward with good information. So that'll be on the budget, to look at the budget again on Wednesday. Other than that, the only other, an extension of the farmers market lease for 1 year while we renegotiate a new lease for that building across the way. And the last item I'd raise would be the, I was asked at budget about the subsidies we give to different groups. That's attached there. We get this every meeting, very good information on how much each of the groups, sports groups pay. Sports groups, and it also includes the seniors groups in here, how much they pay for the use of their facilities and how much they're being subsidized. Obviously, minor hockey is our biggest user, pays about $242,000 a year for using the ice surfaces. Interesting to note, because of that large use, they also get the biggest subsidy, but probably the second biggest subsidy, which I found interesting, is the seniors group. If you include the use of the McQuay Tannery, which is approximately $12,000 a year, and that's a very fluid number, but that's an approximate, plus the room rentals, that they're the second biggest subsidy group that we have here. So anyway, I found that interesting when you look at all the different numbers there. But anyway, this information was asked for at one of the budget meetings, and there it is right there. So.
Good question from
It's
Councillor
sorry, it's the project status summary attachment.
Okay.
That attachment at the bottom.
Thank you.
The last graph.
The last one, yeah.
Councillor Lemon?
The McQuay Tannery building, is that not owned by the Conservation Authority? I believe it is.
Ms. Coulter?
Through your worship, the building is owned by the city. It's on lands that the city has a lease with Grace Auble for, a 99-year lease.
Yeah, but, okay, so the property is owned by Grace Auble, right? And we lease it back. Okay, because really, that's, we're not paying any rent on that to Grace Auble when it's being used by the,
Yeah, I think,
Not at this time.
There's businesses down there that are on leased lands too, and.
That's what I was.
Is it Bayshore? Bayshore is, so.
What I was referring to, Councillor, was in the past, there's been businesses in there that paid the city rent for the use of the facility. And that number is around, I mean, again, it's an approximation of $12,000 a year, approximately.
So picking up income, good. Any other questions?
Those minutes I didn't actually say.
I had one question. The market lease has been for an umpteen year, and I think it was 10-year period in the past. It's just a 1-year renewal. Is there a reason for that, or Ms. Coulter?
Through your worship, as we were putting together agreements for the new facilities manager, it came to our attention that that agreement had lapsed. So it had lapsed in September. We did a 1-year renewal, which will allow the new facilities manager to negotiate a new lease.
Just
so
to
our
pull
intention
together.
will be a long-term lease.
Good, thank you. So all in favor of acceptance of those minutes? That is carried. Thank you. Wastewater treatment plant upgrade, 5, might as well do 5 and 6.
Sure, Your Worship. The first one, this is the first time I recall it happening, so it's just a good reminder to everyone that we didn't have quorum at a meeting. And so one member had informed the recording secretary, one member had informed the chair, and it's just important to inform both, I guess. We sat there and were waiting and neither one of us knew that the other wasn't attending. So anyway, just a good reminder. That's the first set of minutes, just that we didn't have quorum, so therefore we did not hold a meeting. The second set is in fact that meeting. The main item, we looked at an upgrade on the status of the wastewater treatment plant. They found some more contaminated soils. You'll know in the excavation of the admin building, they had a fuel tank there and found some contaminated soil. So that's the remainder of it, cleaning that up. The last provision is, you'll know in the environmental assessment, we talked about different ways of treating the effluent from the sewage treatment plant, either UV disinfection or chlorinating it and dechlorinating. Currently, we chlorinate and dechlorinate, and and this motion here, if passed by council, would retain that existing process where we chlorinate the effluent and then dechlorinate it. We had looked at UV, but we feel that retaining the current system would be the best case, and also in long term, it costs considerably less to keep that process in place. So that's the recommendation of the committee, and I would move both sets of those minutes, Your Worship.
Good. All in favor of receipt of those, or passing of those, approval of those? It's carried. Thank you. We're down to 11D, minutes of closed meeting for approval. Councillor Kepke.
I'll move approval of the minutes of the closed session of November 2nd, and the close of council, and the closed session of the wastewater treatment plant of November 3rd.
Any discussion, questions? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Down to number 12, other business. And I think we're starting with Councillor O'Leary. Had a couple of points.
Thank you, Worship. Just another reminder for Festive First Friday, this Friday, December 4th. I think we're up over 40 stores now that have been open. It's become a pretty big event, so hopefully we'll see you all there. And I wanted to acknowledge our one-year anniversary as a council. It's been a little over a year since this council was elected. I'm not sure where the time has gone. It seems like yesterday that Councillor Kepke had the mayor and council to her home to spend an evening together and get to know each other. It kind of reminds me of my coaching days. We used to tell the players to spend as much time as you can together and not necessarily talk about hockey, just talk about life in general, just because that's what good teams do. And that's what this mayor and council does on a regular basis. Councillor Lemon and Deputy Mayor Wright have been doing this for a long time, and Councillor Lemon says this is a unique council. We seem to communicate extremely well, whether it's one-on-one meetings or phone calls. This council seems to talk to each other a lot. Deputy Mayor Wright says, this council has been the most enjoyable one for me. Of course, it's not all fun and games, and we have another 3 years to go, but we have a group here along with a well-respected mayor to move this city in the right direction, and I look forward to the next 3 years. And with that, Your Worship, I can tell you for sure, we're a lot better council than we were a month ago, and we will be better in the future. Thank you.
So, Councillor O'Leary, you told your kids not to talk about hockey, and what do we spend all our time talking about?
Well, that's different. I also told them to do as I say, not as what I do.
I just take that opportunity to reflect on the past year. I kind of giggle that I wanted you guys to be paired up councillors, so everybody would have a little buddy system with an incumbent and somebody new, and we weren't even sworn in when we got invited to Marion's place before, and it hasn't really been necessary since. So a year in, 3 to go. We probably all made promises and to our voters and plans as councillors what we're going to accomplish in those 4 years. So I encourage everyone to go back and look at what you planned to do a year ago, because that year went by way too quickly, and the next 3 will go by very quickly again, and we want to be prepared to move ahead in the things that we plan to move ahead. We'll have an end of year at our next meeting on December 14th. I want to review all the things that we've been through or put ourselves through or put staff through or something like that in the past year. So thanks for your comments, Brian. Deputy Mayor Wright, you had something.
Thank you very much. The first thing I want to do is, it was really a lovely opportunity that you gave me to say thank you to Willie Bain. Willie spent 35 years with the swim team for the special swim team. She started it at the Y and continued with it for 35 years, and they had a surprise thank you party for her last Friday afternoon, and I was very happy. I have pictures that I thought I had on my computer, but I have them on my other computer, so I couldn't send them, but I will send them, and maybe we can have a look at them. It was an enjoyable afternoon anyway, so I appreciate that opportunity. The next one is I just want to mention a little bit about the county budget. The county budget came in at 1.94%, which is a little higher than we thought, and that is due to a decrease in the expected assessment of about $500,000. But out of our budget, $17.34 per person, which is 48% of our budget, goes to help people. That includes paramedics, hospital, homes for the aged, education, what we call people services. So 48% of that goes back directly in aid of the taxpayer. Out of this year's budget, the third installment of the $1 million we contributed to the Graybruce Regional Health Center was paid, and also the first installment of the $2 million to Georgian College in Owen Sound was paid. The budget overall at the county in the last 10 years has averaged 1.2% increase, which isn't too bad. So I remind you that tomorrow night is inaugural and everyone is invited. And the other just bit of information is the county has pretty near $40 million in reserves, so we're in pretty good shape up at the county.
Can we have some?
Yeah. Well,
hey, I guess it's part of ours.
Solvent anyway.
Yeah, good, thank you. Councillor Gregg, you want to give us an update on how the Movember has gone? And
hadn't. The only, well, I'm happy to see my colleagues are helping me out because I did post, and it was unfortunate that they were not able to be carried on Rogers. I had some requests for those photos afterwards because they thought the laughter was pretty good in here. The photos I had doctored up of Mayor Boddy, Councillor Dodd, and Councillor Lemon set the bar very high for me for the next couple of weeks. I did my best, but tomorrow morning it'll likely be coming off much the same way yours may be coming off soon.
Councillor McManaman, how'd your mustache go?
We got ours on.
Councillor O'Leary, yours looks pretty good. Councillor Lemon, yours looks pretty good. Councillor Dodd, yours looks good.
It looks pretty phony.
We're very pleased to have joined you in this contest this year. Well, they won't stick.
Councillor Kefke and I, there's not much we can do about it, sir.
Well, we're a little afraid to play with that, so. Councillor Gregg, congratulations on working on that mustache and doing some charity work while you're doing it. Well done. Yours hurt to take off?
Yeah.
Jeez, mine fell off.
Well, you have a different skin. I'm sensitive.
Yeah, okay, so number 13 is a motion that, is there anything else, other business? There isn't, is there? You did that. Ms. Coulter, I think you had an answer to a question earlier. Did you find that out for Councillor Lemon on courtroom security?
I did, Your Worship, and there was an increase in court security, at least based on our agreement. So we'll confirm that before Tuesday, but there was an increase from 180 to around 230.
So
230,000. So there should be that should be reflected in the budget.
Good, thank you. So now I can go to number 13 is a motion that the committee rise and report.
Moved by myself that the committee rises and reports.
All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Number 14, resolution adopting.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Dodd, that the action taken in committee of the whole in considering public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business be confirmed by this council.
And all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Number 15, notice of motion, seeing none. I guess I should look around. New business by resolution, none. So number 17, go ahead. Bylaws.
Yeah, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Dodd. The bylaws number 2015-166, 167, 168, 169, 170, and 171 be passed and enacted.
And all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We've completed the agenda and all of our matters for tonight. It's 5 after 10 p.m. I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.